Would like for everyone to please take their seats. We have proclamations that we have to get through with Mayor Glazer this morning.
Waiting for you, Chief Conley. Not really, but. Lauren. All right, as we all know, it's Mardi Gras season, as you see from the festive outfits of some people in this room here. So in recognition of that, well, on the pushing of Councilwoman McKinney, because she is a member of the crew of ISIS, give a couple of proclamations to the King and Queen and the Captain for a milestone anniversary. So whereas to reign as Queen of ISIS during the Mardi Gras season is an honor, particularly on its 50th anniversary. Whereas Lauren LeBeau is the daughter of Lyndon and Tina LeBeau. Whereas Lauren LeBeau is a graduate of Southern Mississippi with a Bachelor of Science in Polymer Science and scientist for Mary Kay Cosmetics. I was going to make a joke about you going to Southern Miss. Whereas Mardi Gras has always been an integral part of Lauren's life, as Lauren serves as Mardi Gras maids for various crews prior to becoming a member of the crew of ISIS. Now, therefore, I, County Mayor Michael Glazer, along with the members of the City Council and Chief of Police Keith Conley, do hereby congratulate and acknowledge Lauren LeBeau as a 2023 Queen of ISIS on the crew's 50th anniversary. Congratulations. You want to wait and take the pictures all at once, or what? You tell me. Yes. Here we go. There you go.
Thank you so much.
We're going to take pictures now. Okay? You got it. All right, King. Ready for your time in the spotlight? Of course. Whereas to reign as King of ISIS during the Mardi Gras season is an honor, particularly on its 50th anniversary. Whereas Frank Lively, the son of Penny Faith Lively and the late Franklin James Lively, and is a lifelong Kenner resident and business owner who graduated from Bonneville High School. Whereas Frank Lively is married to Liz Lively, is a crew of ISIS board member, and is the father of two sons, Eric and Hunter Lively, who are two crew of ISIS Dukes. Whereas Frank Lively is an avid parade goer and enjoys carnival festivities steeped in tradition. Now, therefore, I, Kenner Mayor Michael Glazer, along with the members of the Kenner City Council and Chief of Police Keith Conley, do hereby congratulate Frank Lively on being named the 2023 Crew of ISIS King on the crew's 50th anniversary. Congratulations. And we saving the best for last or just last? Something like that. All right. She's responsible for this now. So, whereas to serve as captain of a Mardi Gras crew, particularly on its 50th anniversary, is an honor. Whereas Kristen Bertucci was named the captain of ISIS after the passing of former captain Cheryl Gorman in April of 2021. Whereas Kristen has always enjoyed Mardi Gras culture and traditions, and saw her father take part in 26 years of tradition with the crew of Carrollton. Whereas Kristen has worked tirelessly to realize the vision of Cheryl had for the crew of ISIS's 50th anniversary parade and ball. Now, therefore, I, Kenner Mayor Michael Glazer, along with the members of the Kenner City Council and Chief of Police Keith Conley, do hereby congratulate and acknowledge Kristen Bertucci as the 2023 captain of ISIS on its crew's 50th anniversary. So, congratulations. You want to say anything? Have at it.
The crew would really like to thank the mayor and the Kenner City Council and everybody that goes into all of the hard work that y'all do on your end. We hope we have something that we're putting on the street to make all of you proud. We've grown and we're continuing to grow. So thank everybody. And we have something that we'd like to present to you, the mayor.
Okay, she got it.
A special bra. Not only is it the Kenner seal, it does say the opposite.
Oh, how about that?
It is
not
very special.
customized, yes. I think I just changed my Mardi Gras Day costume now. We'll see. All right, hey, you want to come take a picture?
Yes, please.
We will be starting the council meeting in about 2 minutes. Call the council meeting to order. Do we have any special intentions? Councilmember McKinney?
Thank you, Council President. I'd just like to ask for prayers for Miss Dee Dufour, who served as the account clerk at Green Lawn Terrace elementary school for many, many years. She passed away on February 10th. And please just pray for her and her family. She was just a bright light, and she'll be sorely missed. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to ask Pastor David Madden from Church of the King to come to the podium and lead us in prayer.
Let's pray. Father God, we thank you for this beautiful day. We know that this is a day that you've made, and we rejoice and be glad in it. And we do lift up the family of Dee Dufour, God, who are grieving the loss of their loved one. We pray that you would comfort them in their time of grief, Lord. And we thank you for a great week coming up and all the celebrations, Lord. And we pray for protection and blessing. And we thank you for all those who are here today, God, especially the council folks. We thank you for their service, God. You said if anybody wants to be great, they should be a servant. And we honor them, and we thank you for their service, God. Pray you bless them and strengthen them and help them and provide for them, Lord. And we just pray for your wisdom today as we meet, and we commit it all into your hands, God, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Madden. I would like to ask Ms. Paris Burnett to come to the podium and lead us in the pledge.
No, Keith, I don't need help. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Paris. Council Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum. In accordance with Council Resolution Number B 14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the council meeting. Next, we have correspondence, reports from the mayor, CAO, or department heads.
Mayor Glazer.
Thank you. Try to be brief, but just want to update y'all on a couple of things that happened this week with projects coming to Kenner, I guess. At Tuesday's Regional Planning Commission meeting, 3 projects were approved here in the city of Kenner, totaling over about $5 million, it looks like. First is the Loyola Drive resurfacing from 31st Street to the 3 Loyolas. The estimated cost is $2.2 million. Next one is Veterans Boulevard resurfacing from Williams Boulevard to Roosevelt. That's $1.7 million. And Vintage Drive eastbound from the Duncan Canal to Power Boulevard is going to be resurfaced. All of them are overlays, and that one is $1.1 million, and it's an 80% federally funded and 20% local match. So that was all approved Tuesday at that meeting. Railroad. We have been trying to get the railroad to fix these crossings here in Kenner. Yesterday, Jose penned a letter for me that I signed and emailed him to it yesterday, and this morning received an email from Stacy Lyons, who is the manager, Government and Public Affairs of Canadian National. Says, I'm happy to inform you that I spoke to our track and engineering leaders, shared the locations of concern, and asked for a plan of action to complete the required repairs. The team responded with urgency and are working to procure the required materials to complete the necessary repairs. So that was this morning, so hopefully within the next several weeks, we have all of these railroad crossings repaired. So that's the first kind of response we've ever had, or I've ever had from them related to that. And Monday, we have our city's going to have the annual Lundi Gras celebration here in Rivertown. If you want to see the crew of August, Royal Court, and Zulu, they will begin arriving here at the, it's going to be down the street in a VIP reception at the crossing. Then we will parade Williams to the parking lot where the Top Cats will perform. So it begins at 10:30 with the arrival, but we'll be inside. There's a parade of wagon floats that's going to start around 11, and we'll end up making it into the stage where we'll present proclamations to the Royal Court of August and Zulu. And with that, that's it.
Thank you, Mayor Glazer. When they do the railroad crossing seen repairs that need to look at the ones on Little Forms. They got those metal ones, those new ones, and that should fix it forever. Council Clerk?
Yes, sir. Do we have any resolutions, motions, or other items from the floor? Under the consent agenda, we have item 1, approval of minutes, the regular council meeting of February 2nd, 2023. Item 2 is approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. We have none. Item 3 is approval of bingo and public gathering applications. Item 3A is application number 2313-23, an Old Kenner Civic Association to hold a public gathering on March 4th and 5th, 2023 from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the purpose of a Kenner Black Heritage Festival in Rivertown. Item 3B is application 2318-23, Kenner Central Lions Club to hold a public gathering on March 17th, April 21st, May 19th, June 16th, July 21st, August 18th, September 15th, and October 20th, 2023 from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. for the purpose of a cruise night at Lake Town. Item 3C is application 2317-23, Divine Mercy Roman Catholic Church to hold a public gathering on March 4, 2023 from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. for the purpose of a church and school fundraiser at 4337 Salentini Parkway. Item 4 is acceptance, rejection of bids requiring an expenditure of less than $5,000. We have none. Item 5 is change orders requiring an expenditure of less than $5,000. We have none. Item 6 is acceptance of committee findings for final passage. We have none. Item 7 is re-subdivision ordinances for final passage. Item 7A is summary ordinance number 13,151, an ordinance approving the plan of re-subdivision of lots 1 through 48, square 57, into lots A and B, square 57, Highway Park subdivision, which lots are owned by Highway Park LLC and Williams and Vintage 57 LLC.
I have a motion by Councilmember McKinney, second by Councilmember Wilmont. Is anyone wishing to speak on these items? Council members in favor say aye. Opposed, say nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Under the public appearance agenda, we have item 8, public hearings for final passage. Item 8A is summary ordinance number 13,166, an ordinance amending the capital budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 to establish funding for city facility repairs and body camera capital defund excess salary amount.
I have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, second by Councilmember Wilmont to open the public hearing. Council members in favor say aye. Opposed, say nay.
Seeing none, motion passes 7-0.
Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, second by Council Wilmont to close the public hearing. Council members in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Seeing none, motion passes 7-0.
I have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, second by Councilmember Wilmont to approve. Council members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Seeing none, motion passes 7-0. Item 8B is summary ordinance number 13,167, an ordinance amending the operating budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 to defund excess in budgeted positions and increase funding for facility repairs and utilities.
I have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, second by Councilmember Wilmont to open the public hearing. Council members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Seeing none, motion passes 7-0.
Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this? Seeing none, I have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, second by Councilman Wilmont to close the public hearing. Council members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Seeing none, motion passes 7-0.
I have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, second by Councilmember Wilmont to approve. Council members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh,
I just had a question on
okay. Councilmember McKinney.
Yes. Ms. Herring, could you just explain what exactly is happening and how many positions are being defunded and why they're being defunded as well?
So when we came to y'all in January, I think with that other budget amendment, we had promised that that was just to get us set up, and then we would take a deep look at all the vacancies that we have. So the city has about a 28% vacancy rate right now, and there's 80 vacancies. So we're halfway, well, more than halfway now through the year. So we went ahead and took the funding for those half of the year 80 vacancies. That gave us about 1.4 million. We're seeing an increase in utilities like everyone else and some repairs to some facilities that were not Ida damaged, that have just been, you know, maintenance that needed to be done. So that's basically what this is. This is putting about $724,000 back into the fund balance. So we're sweeping the money from the departments and putting it back in the fund balance.
Thank you.
We have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, second by Councilmember Wilmot to approve. Council members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Seeing none, motion passes 7-0. Item 9 is ordinances for the sale, purchase, transfer, lease, and/or alienation of a movable property. We have none. Item 10 is opening of bids. We have none. Item 11 is reclassification of zoning for final passage. We have none. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. Item 12A is summary ordinance number 13,152, an ordinance creating a temporary moratorium on the issuance of permits under Kenner Code of Ordinances, Article 8, Sections 10 through 170 through 10-181 for sales from property, temporary stands or vehicles.
I have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot, second by Councilmember Brannigan. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Ms. Alessandro, please state your name and address. You have 3 minutes.
Stacy Alessandro, 3309 Chateau Boulevard. I apologize, but I wasn't able to read the attachments to the ordinance, so my questions may have been answered there. But so my questions are: as far as I knew, we didn't allow food trucks and stands and such in Kenner. It seems like maybe during the hurricane there was an emergency and they issued some permits. I'm just guessing. So I'm just wondering, like, what is the status in Kenner of food trucks and food carts? Are we allowing them? Are we not allowing them? If somebody had a permit, is that going to be taken away? And if they were given some type of permit, was that just through the city of Kenner, or did the city of Kenner require them to have a permit from the Department of Health prior to giving our own permit? So it's really just, I just have some questions if somebody could explain the status of all of this.
Thank you, Catherine Toppel, Director of Inspection and Code Enforcement for the city. Actually, the City of Kenner's current code does allow for food trucks. That was not just after Hurricane Ida. We actually requested a moratorium on issuing any further permits because there are some contradictions in what is allowed in the ordinance currently. One section of the ordinance says you can have a food truck for a year on a property. We believe the intent was not for a year on just any property. We believe the intent at the time that was approved was for those areas that, for example, Zia's, Copeland's, for them to have it for a year, not just to place it anywhere in the city of Kenner. And there are some other minimal issues with the ordinance as it stands right now, but right now they are currently permitted, and those that there are multiple permits that have been granted out in the city, and this will give us 90 days to come in and clean up the contradictions and try to get something before the council for some changes. Thank you. Yes, they are required to provide their Department of Health inspection and approval to our department before they can obtain food truck permit within the city of Kenner. That is part of the application process, and that won't go away.
Councilmember McKinney?
Yes, I just have one additional question. So, and I think Stacy asked it as, Ms. Alessandro asked it as well. How will this affect those who currently have that food permit?
I apologize. Those who currently have a permit are fine to stay. In addition, this will not affect any type of special events coming in because those come in through the council already and get approval through the council. But those permits that are already approved and out there right now will be allowed to stay.
Thank you, Ms. Toppel. Councilmember Wilmot?
Just one brief question. How many permits, roughly, if you don't know the number, roughly how many have been issued? Three. Okay. And is it for a particular place, or is it, how does it?
Right now, they can come in any location zoned properly, which is generally your C2, C1 areas up and down, you know, Williams and Veterans area. Anywhere that it's zoned properly, they can apply for a food truck license. Then there's an inspection process to make certain that there's enough room on the property for parking. They can't just, you know, plop a food truck down in the middle of nowhere. You know, they have to have proper parking and paving for customers to come in, and if there's an existing business, to maintain the proper parking for the current business that's at the location.
So I guess, narrow my question more, if the application itself, does it have to put a particular location as to where the vendor will be working out of, or is it mobile and can be moved?
No, they would have to designate a certain location that the vendor would be, so we could look at the parking layout of the location.
Okay, all right.
But again, this won't affect any type of special events coming in that come through the council. This is just to allow us the ability to review the ordinance, clean up the contradictions that are within the ordinance as they sit right now, without just, right now we've gotten requests. I would say anywhere from 8 to a dozen different requests for food trucks within the city of Kenner. People are wanting to place them permanently within the city of Kenner. So we're trying to make certain that we have all of the questions that our ordinance doesn't address put into the ordinance, and that'll be coming before the council as well.
Okay, so is there any prohibitions for like particular streets or areas at present?
No.
Okay, so that needs to be worked out.
Yes.
Okay, that's
Correct.
all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Topple, how many trucks do we have out there now?
We have 3 licenses.
3 licenses?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And also, this obviously, just to clarify, this doesn't like apply to like ice cream trucks or anything that actually is mobile, like, so it's,
No.
it has to be.
Correct. Those that
it
are
has to
not
be a
parking.
parked vehicle.
Correct. Your ice cream trucks would not be affected by this.
We should not allow this.
I don't know, I saw someone, they had a mobile margarita place in another state. I thought that was pretty ingenious, but no, all of that will make certain to be addressed in the proposal to come back before the council to make certain it's clear, which it currently is not. These are, there hasn't been any changes since 2017. Jefferson Parish just themselves had to go through and look at their food trucks. There were a lot of changes that were made years ago that need to be looked at again, and we're in the same boat here.
Well, thank you for getting this cleaned up. Any other questions? Seeing none, motion by Councilmember Wilmot, second by Councilmember Brannigan. Council members in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Seeing none, motion passes 7-0. Item 12B is summary ordinance number 13,153. An ordinance authorizing the filing of a pre-application to the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality for the purpose of placing the city of Kenner on a priority list for funding through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund Loan Program for the Department of Wastewater.
Have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot, second by Councilmember Shorwath. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this matter?
Right here, Councilman.
Mr. Al Morella.
We're gonna look this way.
I was looking.
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 51 years. Two things on this. Number one, what is the dollar amount that we're looking for on this loan? And 2, 9 years ago, the then council approved an $80 million bond issue for sewage upgrades to get us in compliance with the LDEQ and repairs. And right now, I'm in the process of talking some more about that through a public records request. So I'd like to get the answers to these 2 questions. Dollar amount on this loan, and what's going on with the $80 million bond issue from 9 years ago.
Mayor Glazer.
All right. There is no dollar amount. This is LDEQ requires a resolution before we can be put on a list where we can get loans. That's correct? And so it's just an application for us to be able to apply for something. So there is no dollar amount at all. It's just us getting the ability to go, and then if we go out for a loan, the council will get it before we even, that will have a dollar amount attached to it.
Thank you, Mayor. In other words, at this time, there's no dollar amount. We want to get on a list for in the future if there if we will be able to apply for a loan.
That is
We want
correct.
to get on the list.
And
Okay, so there could be somewhere down the road a loan, so which leads me to ask the question again, what is going on with the $80 million bond issue that the then council approved 9 years ago?
That's a good question.
I have to get that from the wastewater department, from Joanne, and a public records request is forthcoming. But
Well, I can,
that's why I'm up here.
I can tell you, they tell me it's still in bad shape. So, that's my professional opinion on our,
That's probably why I can't get
Waste-
a direct answer, why it requires a public records request,
yes,
man.
yeah,
Little stonewall tactic.
you got it.
Anybody got any comments, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Council members in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Seeing none, motion passes 7-0. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Item 13A is a resolution accepting the Municipal Water Pollution Prevention Environmental Audit Report for the period of January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022, and to inform the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality that actions were taken and additional actions will be taken by the City of Kenner.
Motion by Councilmember Lahat, second by Councilmember Dunn. Is anyone wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, Mr. Taft, do you want to speak on this? Okay. Council members in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Seeing none, motion passes 7-0. Item 13B is a resolution authorizing a settlement in the lawsuit entitled Ramelli Janitorial Service Incorporated versus the City of Kenner in the 24th Judicial District Court for the Parish of Jefferson, case number 806-208, Division J.
Got a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, second by Councilmember McKinney. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this matter?
Mr. Chairman, I've received a request to amend it. Would you like me to read the amendment in now?
Yes, Council Clerk.
At the request of Councilmember Brannigan, I have an amendment that would, at the fourth whereas, we will remove the word "and." We will remove and delete the fifth whereas of the resolution. And then section 1 will read that the mayor and/or city attorney are authorized to enter into negotiations to settle the lawsuit entitled Ramelli Janitorial Service Incorporated versus the City of Kenner and the 24th Judicial District Court for the Parish of Jefferson, case number 806-208, Division J. Any agreed settlement will be contingent upon final ratification of the terms of any such settlement by this council. Section 2 will now read, any future resolution brought before this council to ratify any proposed settlement shall include a detailed description of the proposed settlement. I have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, seconded by Councilmember Brennan on the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment as the clerk has read?
Okay, basically, the amendment that was just read by the council clerk was put on by me yesterday because I felt that the original resolution needed a few changes. The original resolution gives the authority of the mayor and the city attorney the ability to negotiate and settle the Ramelli lawsuit. While I trust them and I feel it's important for the residents of Kenner to know the details before a council vote is taken. I know all of us want the Ramelli lawsuit to go away, but by not having the dollar amounts of the settlement was a sticking point for me. I want all that we do to be the most transparent as possible because that will reestablish faith in our government. The amendment as the original resolution gives the mayor and city attorney the ability to negotiate, but details must be disclosed so that the council and the residents know what's in it. The settlement on this lawsuit will be one of the largest settlements in Kenner's history. I hope it does not happen again. A month ago, we had an executive session on this topic. Details were discussed in executive session that cannot be discussed outside of that session. Normally, when we exit that session in regards to a settlement, we would reestablish the council meeting. The council meeting would then vote on the dollar amount of the settlement. After that session, a vote did not occur. I don't know why. I did feel this caused a situation where nothing with the settlement was written in stone. I did not feel comfortable with giving a blank check to settle the lawsuit because the numbers could have changed. I hope that my colleagues in the administration understand why I put the amendment on the table. Basically, transparency. Having an open door policy is important for all of us, and I feel that my fellow council members and the administration being able to see my amendment as of 1 p.m. yesterday was an open door policy. For the general public not knowing the details of the settlement, cost of the city before the vote bothered me. I felt it's important to know before the vote of the council. I've learned that when you do the right thing, and make sure the people that elected us understand everything should fall in place. I know we will never agree on everything. I hope that my colleagues understand my decision and this amendment is supported by them. Councilmember Wilmot.
First off, I'd like to thank you for bringing the amendment. I think it's very important, and I agree with you in your principles and statements that you just made. This is a transparency issue. This needs to be brought forth. First off, I'm not very fond of the procedure that this took in the form of a resolution. I think it'd be more transparent by ordinance. I know probably legally it's not mandated or necessary, but I think it would have been clearer to the public and to everybody concerned as to what's going on. And I think the dollar amount and so forth does need to be brought forth. And at this point, it has not. And here we are on the day of the vote, and there's been no dollar figure. This just came up 4 days ago. It was filed 4 days ago. It's not, to me, it's an issue on transparency. So a resolution to me, is not the right vehicle. However, legally, it might be okay. And I'll let legal chime in on that when I finish. It also, there's no particular amount. This administration has been great with how they present things typically and what's in them and so forth. This particular issue lacks that. But it's not, to us as the council, this should not be an open checkbook. And that's what this is. Of course, we're not, that's our job, is to protect the city's funds. And that's what I'm saying, and that's what I'm doing now. The taxpayers are our constituents, and they're the ones who we got to protect. And that's what we're doing today. And I understand that the administration is juggling lots of different things when it comes to these matters, because these are very serious matters, and they're trying to fit all the pieces, parts together. I get it, and I do admire their efforts. So, but again, we have to do our part, and this is our part. So publicly, this is the right thing to do, and I'm supportive of this amendment. Thank you.
Councilmember Lahat.
Excuse me, maybe on an elemental question, but a settlement wouldn't it eventually be public record anyway? So I don't see why this wouldn't have been in place before this. I've only been on the council 6 months now, but legally, I understand negotiations. I'm an attorney to get to a settlement, but in terms of the public knowledge, absolutely, they should know. I agree with that, and I think it just follows suit. We authorize a settlement, it's going to be in a public record. I mean, I'm sure Jefferson Parish does that. I haven't spoken with them on this basis. This just came in 4 days ago. Put a lot of paper this week trying to look at everything. But if you have a legal explanation of how that works, I think maybe the crowd here would kind of like that too.
Well, in this case, what happened
put the, they can't hear you.
Should I? It's up. Okay. Typically, when there's settlement negotiations, in any case, whether it's government or, professionally outside of this, those negotiations are confidential because you're in negotiations. And how it works with us, with you guys, is we come in executive session and we discuss what settlement negotiations would be, get some type of authority for you all at an upward end, talk to you about the case, explain to the case, which is what we did in executive session, what, 3 sessions ago, 2 sessions ago, when we first brought this to you all and discussed having a settlement. And then since then, of course, we've spoke to you all again about the settlement and the reasons for the settlement and why we thought the settlement was a good idea, and the problems we had with not doing a settlement in the future, the expenses of legal costs, and other matters that apparently this week has blown up. So that's where we are. So typically we don't put a settlement, the terms of the settlement out there for the public, because if we're in a negotiation, we don't want to come to council meeting and say, hey, say for instance, we're going to settle a case for $100,000, and we come to you all for authority, and then someone's in the audience listening going, hey, I heard at the council meeting, they're going to settle your case for they got authority for $100,000. But in the interim, we're trying to settle it for less than $100,000. That's just our high end. That's our max number. So we don't want to go into settlement negotiations with someone when they know we got authority for $100,000, but we might be able to settle it for 75. And as you all know, we went into executive session and we've gotten authority for you all on cases, and we've settled cases below the authority you all have given us on cases. So that's why it's important not to put the negotiation number out there in the world so that someone can know what the top dollar is. It's just like walking in and buying a car. If you know what the bottom dollar is and you don't want to go above it, you could really pay more than what you should be for a case. And in this case, we came to executive session with you all, talked to you about the case, and believe me, when we came out, it should have been voted on. There was a little mishap in the procedure. It didn't get voted on, but that actually gave us more time to talk about it and talk about more instances and more problems we were having at the time with what else was out there and what we could do to fix our other garbage problem with settling this garbage problem. And I've had a chance to talk to, I think, most of you all in person. I think we've talked to, the administration has met with most of you all individually, sometimes on the phone, and I hope we've answered every question. But that's why we do it this way. You just don't, even the public who's been in lawsuits, they don't want their numbers out there until a settlement has been reached. And when they called, Mr. Brannigan called yesterday and said, hey, I'd like to put the numbers in there, fine. We had no problem. All I had to do was get the paperwork done and give you all the numbers. And it's attached, so the numbers are out there.
Yeah, the numbers are in the Second Amendment
Yes, they're in there.
that's
Yes,
coming.
in the Second Amendment, yes. So, but again, we typically don't do that because we haven't got a signed document yet. And that's just the process. If the process needs to be changed, then it needs to be changed, in an ordinance. But that's just how the process has always worked.
And Mayor Glazer, would you like to speak?
Yes. So this, I can't sign it until y'all vote on it. But yesterday morning, was it, that Bob, or yesterday afternoon, Bob Ramelli came to the office and signed it. So that pretty much ended the negotiation, and the settlement was accepted by him. So, and that's about where it is. It's not that we're trying to hide anything from anyone. Like Councilman Lahat said, anything we do is public record, So this is just, and trust me, the Ramelli and the IV garbage situation has been a headache that we inherited, and I'm trying to get away from these lawsuits that have been sitting around for now 2 years and hasn't been moved by the city administration. And I asked several attorneys about it, why you think, and they had all of them said there's probably issues with it. And that's kind of why we said, well, we need to start moving to get rid of it the cheapest way we can. We know in-house attorneys spend a lot of time on it, and when we have contract attorneys, they bill us every hour, and it just keeps the price tag going up. So if we stop it now, I think it's the best way for the city to save some money. And I do believe all the terms are going to come in your Second Amendment, right?
Yes.
and how it is, okay.
Yes. Councilmember Wilmot?
Ms. Dufresne, if you will, I posed a question earlier, and I don't think you had an opportunity to answer it, and this is in the form of a resolution which was just filed as opposed to an ordinance. Can you please explain the procedural significance of that?
Well, settlements we don't file as ordinances. We file as resolutions because we do handle those in executive session. So
Wait, we can't hear.
I'm sorry. Ordinances we do file as settlements we do file as resolutions and not as ordinances because we do handle those in executive session. And that's just, if it's under $25,000, we can settle them without authority. And anything over $25,000, we come to you all with authority through a resolution, and then you all vote on it after having executive session. If that's how it's set up. If it needs to be changed, if the council wants to change it, then it would have to be changed. But I understand the reason you all are leery on this particular case because of the dollar amounts and plus of all the background and the problems we're having this week. But it would just have to be something that the council would have to decide, talk to legal if it wants to be changed.
Does this fulfill the requirement of public notice?
Yes.
Okay, so, but our current rules allow this?
Yes.
So if, in the future, if we don't want this to happen, then we need to change the rules?
Need to change it.
Okay.
Or I guess we could do what we're doing here, and if you all decide, look, we want to make this one public and we want the terms put in the public, I mean, we can do that. But again, I ask that we not do that when we're in negotiations because I think it really does hurt our negotiating ability. It really hurts, and Councilman Lahat can tell you as being, you know, in these types of cases, you don't want, you know, it's just like playing poker. You don't want the other side to see what you have. And if you put these things in public before you've actually reached an agreement, then it really can cost you more money. And vice versa if you're on the other side of something. If we were suing someone and we wanted to settle this, I wouldn't want to put out there, hey, well, you know, we can settle this for $50,000 and I think the city could get $100,000. I wouldn't do that on either side for us. So I think in that instance, when you change these things, you have to be very careful of throwing away the baby with the bathwater, because I think you can really hurt the city's ability. And it's not about keeping things private, because it's not private. These settlements come out and they're public record, and those numbers are out there. And in this case, because it is such a high number, then I understand completely that you want the public to know what's going on. And it's been such a mess leading up to this point.
And I hope that none of the administration thinks that I was implying that anything was being hidden.
Oh, no, no.
My concern, and the red flags went up because of the size of this settlement. And as I referenced, it might be the largest one ever in Kenner history.
Correct.
And, you know, my thought process is if the council members vote to approve the settlement, and then the public finds out what the number is 2 weeks from now or 2 hours from now, and they come back and they want to know, you know, what the hell are y'all doing voting on this, and the public not knowing about it.
That's a problem.
I don't want to hinder any negotiations to get it as low as possible, but I was not implying at all that anyone was trying to hide anything. Look, the last 8 months have been a pleasure working with you guys, and look, I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
If there was anything to be hidden, we would not have had as many meetings and sessions and talks with you guys about what the negotiation numbers were and what our problems were and what our strengths were. We gave you both. So no, there's absolutely, this is where we wanted to be, and
Okay.
you know, letting you all know. And I think I've told every one of you, if you ever had a single question about anything in this or concerns, call me, and a lot of you all have.
Okay. Councilmember Shorworth?
Thank you, Council President. Ms. Dufresne, I know we spoke. This closes all lawsuits that Rumeli has against us, correct?
Correct. This is a full and final release.
Everything.
Everything is done.
Now, if we wouldn't settle for this, the decree was open, would still be open out there, still in court. And again, there's no saying, how the judge would rule in the city's favor or for Mr. Romelli, either way. I think we all kind of have to take a step back and say, ask ourselves, was this original deal done by the previous administration a good deal or a bad deal? And was Mr. Romelli really done wrong, or it was just the way business was done with that administration? We need to look back 18 months, some of the reports, some of the TV things, specials that was out there, and go back and look at that and really see that it wasn't a good deal. And of course, no matter which way the court went with this, there was probably going to be an appeal by somebody, correct?
Correct.
And it goes from the 24th to the 4th.
The Fifth Circuit.
To the Fifth Circuit, and then from the Fifth Circuit to the state. So we'll be looking at tremendous legal fees if it would keep going on and going on,
Sure.
correct?
Correct, sure.
And this settlement here is fantastic.
Look,
It's I'm
it's
sorry.
a big number. It's a big number. It is a lot of money. As an attorney, I look at things not more so as my personal feelings as opposed to my legal opinion. And in this matter, I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody knows what judges are going to rule. You don't know what information's coming out, and you don't know, what's going to be said. But in this case, there's some motions that were pending, that are still pending, that have been sitting now for 2 years. It's been filed for 2 years. My position always is on a case, if I have a strong motion, I am pushing that motion to go. I mean, I want to know if I'm winning or losing on that motion. This motion has sat for 2 years. Is my understanding it sat during the election period because nobody wanted to take a chance that it would be a bad outcome. In my position as an attorney, if I think it's going to be a good outcome, I think that's good for an election. But again, the matter's been sitting, just stagnant, and nothing's been done. So if it's a 50% chance you win, a 50% chance you lose, there's always that case. Losing that motion, either side was going to appeal, which causes appeal costs to go up to the Fifth Circuit. Depending on what the Fifth Circuit says, then you go up to the Supreme Court. If somebody to decide by the Supreme Court, then you come back down. And one way or the other, it's coming back to the court. And at that point, you're talking about more litigation and more costs. And in the interim, if we lose, the damages that by Romelli, just on his alone could be $5 million. The upward numbers. I went through all the numbers of his claim. Some of the things he put in there that he claimed would be his losses. I didn't necessarily agree with were losses, so I struck those and said, no, I don't think that's related to this particular instance. So I tried to give it a good hard number, and I think I talked to you all. I think probably 2 to 3 million if it came back and said we were liable based on his actual out-of-pocket costs and things he was required to pay if this terminated his contract was not terminated, the things he had to keep in effect, the things he had to keep going. He had to keep insurances, he had to keep trucks, he had to keep his performance bond. Those are all the things that in order to keep this contract going in our case, he had to keep paying those things out of pocket without any money in. Now, I understand there was, issues whether the contract was terminated or not, and that's a matter of law, and that's what the judge was going to decide. And that's kind of where we are.
And pretty much at this point, the only winners would have been the lawyers.
Oh, yes. And I'm not against lawyers making money. I think that's a good thing. I was in private practice, but it's going to be a lot of money, and there's been a lot of money already been made. Just Romelli's legal fees, and we would owe legal fees on top of that, are probably, because the amount of work they have done on this case is probably $500,000. And to me, that's outrageous, but that's what they've spent, and that's how much money he was willing to invest in this kind of case. And not many people have that kind of money to invest, but when somebody does, it makes the attorney fees go up.
And we'll look at the savings on the legal fees and the savings that we'll be getting from the billing, the correct billing, will pay for this lawsuit by itself.
It'll pay for it, it'll end it. You got judicial interest, you've got a lawsuit that's been going on for 3 years. On top, it's got 2 years of motion, so you got judicial interest that's accruing on any type of judgment that might be granted. The numbers go up, and at some point in time, you're gonna have to stop and go, okay, what's a good settlement what do I want to do to make this stop? What do I want to do to make this go forward and put this behind me? And, you know, what's that dollar amount? And it's a lot of money, but there was a lot of money. This isn't a $50,000 car accident case. This is a $5 million garbage deal. So it's a lot of money you're dealing with. This isn't nickels and dimes. This is, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars that people are making off this thing, and that's why it makes it so much. The investment that Ramelli made into this contract was millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, and I will be supporting this 100%.
So that's what I have.
Mayor Glazer.
All right, this is, I guess, the first time publicly I'm going to disagree with the councilman. It's not fantastic. It's absolutely horrible that this should have never, ever come to a lawsuit. There were ways to get out of this contract. It was a problem. If you followed the way the contract was written, we wouldn't be here today. So it's not fantastic. It's absolutely horrible for the city of Kenner.
And Mayor, that was a bad choice of words by myself, but considering what we could be dealing with and what we're ending up with, I think that's the biggest thing, what I'm trying to say here.
Michelle, and on the motion for summary judgment, I know that we have talked about that in the past, and I have talked to other people, and they say, oh, it's a slam dunk, but you never know what the deal is. It is it's the city attorney and administration's thought process that would not be the way to pursue this.
I mean, I think it's a 50-50 shot, and I think that when you look at something like that, you go, okay, what's the good outweigh the bad? And you know, if you won, yes, but then it doesn't mean it's gone because he still has capital investment costs. And his contract, as opposed to the IV Waste contract, allows for him, if this contract was terminated, he could recover his capital investments. And he put up a lot of money when this contract started. So we'd still have things to look at. It wouldn't end the case completely. It wouldn't make everything go away and, yay, we're not paying any more, you know, attorney's fees. That's not the case. We still have damages to be looking at. And so I think at this point you kind of have to go, okay, at what point to make this stop? Do I make this a good deal? And do we move forward and stop looking backward? And, you know, try to rectify some bad that happened, you know, 3 years ago with a really bad decision. And I remember as a resident of Kenner, when this happened, you know, I was horrified that this was going to be a bad decision. And it turned out. And it's not, and to me, it wasn't about service. It's about what's coming down the line as an attorney looking at it going, ooh, I see this going bad real fast. And it did. And now you're looking at, you know, $1 million settlement. The $200,000 that's part of the settlement is the CPI that's owed. Everybody's agreed. It was supposed to be paid, you know, during council, 2019, whatever reason, it flew around and never got paid. So that amount of money is money that's owed to Ramelli, and everyone has agreed that that money just didn't get paid to him for whatever reason. But, you know, we have damages, and this is what happens when people make bad decisions. They pay.
Well, on the CPI piece of it, basically, I don't have a problem with that because obviously the prior administration tried to take the settlement on a federal lawsuit and say it was the CPI when it was nowhere on the same planet as that.
It was not.
And basically, it was a situation where that $217,000 payment, was that, Liz, the amount of that? It was like 217 or 219. They tried to portray it as the CPI payoff, and so basically we owe Ramelli that $200,000. I don't have an issue with that.
That federal settlement was pretty much a hit for doing what they did.
Yes.
And that's, yeah, the litter violations. Again, when you make a bad decision, you pay. And that was a bad decision, and so the administration had to pay that penalty in federal court.
Okay. Councilmember Wilmot?
And I'm going to refer to you, Ms. Michelle, about non-exclusivity. I know oh, thank you. Non-exclusivity. I know most of the documents I've seen that apparently have been filed in our defense and the motion for summary judgment, so forth, they all deal with non-exclusivity. If that's the case, and that's the main focal point of our an argument on behalf of the city. Shouldn't that knock out the bulk of all these claims?
Well, as far as on the Ramelli part of it, you still have if we win on non-exclusivity, okay, and you still have the damages for him putting up his capital investment, because in the contract, it still says that he can recover his capital investment dollars. And that, I think I ran through with you all during executive session, was, $30,000 for his performance bond a year, then he's paying workers' comp, he's paying all his other fees. That's capital investments. And then he bought new trucks, and then he bought new recycle bins. And we'd have to pay back all of that capital investment money because that is in his contract. That if we terminate the contract and take away all his business, and that's another question. And that's a question for the judge. That's a matter of law, a matter of opinion. Did we terminate the contract, which is the big elephant in the room? If you take away all of someone's work and they have nothing other than one dumpster, then they went from billing $305,000 a year to billing. He's got one dumpster at the police station. He's got one dumpster at the police station. I'm sorry. He's got one dumpster at the police station. And you go from billing $305,000 a month for garbage, and now you're billing $150 a month for one dumpster. Have you terminated someone's business? Have you terminated their work? And if you terminate their work without the six-month window notice that we're supposed to give them, then we have to pay for their capital investment reimbursement. And that's a matter of law. That's a matter of judgment for the judge. A judge will have to make that decision.
There's been a lot of money already expended on the motion for summary judgment. There's been a lot of discovery already done. Why can't we see that through?
You can see it through. If you want to see it through, but if you lose, then you're going to lose this settlement, and now you're back full-fledged of what Ramelli's going to want. We don't have a garbage collector in place, recycling collector in place, and those factors. So, yes, yeah, and we're not talking about this is going to happen next week or next month, because once that happens, if we win, Ramelli appeals. If we lose, we appeal. So then you're talking, I've had appeals that taken 16, 18 months to even be heard by the time they get lodged and before. So you're talking about a lot of time, a lot of money, and coming back and doing, if you have to do more discovery. Again, I don't understand if the motion for summary judgment was a winner in such a strong case, why has it been sitting for 2 years? And look, I wasn't here. I didn't write the motion for summary judgment. I wasn't here. I didn't handle any of the discovery at the time. But, my logical brain goes, why let it sit? And especially if it's going to be this great winner during an election, let's have it set and post it all over the news. I won.
I mean, from what I understand, non-exclusivity is also, it's defined in state law. It's also in the contracts. It's also in our pleadings as a defense. It's across the board, and it should be a strong, valid argument.
It should be a strong, valid argument, yes.
And those are the types of things that we haven't had an opportunity to really digest, and I don't think the public has an opportunity to digest since this has been filed 4 days ago. So that's the problems I have. And it's not like you say. It's, hey, this is the procedure. It's allowed, and apparently it is. So if that's the case, then something needs to be tweaked with the procedure, because this really should be, it should be given more notice to the public. The public should have a right to be able to see these numbers in advance, and the public should be able to come here and make their comments, because, again, they're the taxpayers, and that's who we work for. So thank you.
Councilmember Brennan.
Thank you, Council President. Ms. Dufresne, just to reiterate something you mentioned, and you were speaking of the capital outlay, since this ceasing of the services by Mr. Ramelli, as you said, he had the bonds in place. He had to maintain those. It wasn't just a one-time fee, so he's been paying that for multiple years, as well as you said in the executive session, and if you said this a few minutes ago, I'm sorry, but I'm just trying to reiterate, he's maintained all of that since the contract was ceased, or however we want to phrase it. But he still has those expenses, and you said the bonds were 30. Did we, do you recall the insurance? I'm just, if you did, I apologize.
No, that's okay.
And that's not that important. I'm sure it's expensive in just the other expenses he's had to maintain since he was still basically under contract with.
And these were the numbers that were in his petition when he initially filed, so they could have went up because, you know, things have changed in the last 3 years. But he had insurance policies on vehicles, $36,000 a month. He paid for a new recycling vehicle when we hired him, which was $240,000 a month. He had new carts that were ordered, which was $500,000 a month, or $500,000, I'm sorry, total. He had some new dumpsters they had to buy to meet our contract. We had, let's see, some new trucks, which were $2.5 million, some roll-offs for $185,000, front-end loaders, $240,000. His payroll at the time was $90,000 a month. And if you keep in mind that you're telling someone, hey, we're not terminating your contract, we're just suspending all the work from you. But the terms of your contract are you have to keep all of these things in place, or you're breaching your contract. So you're asking someone, and I used an example before, someone tells you to, you know, stop, you can't do anything, you can't make any money, but you've got to keep paying all your outstanding invoices and our outstanding expenses in order to keep your business in place in case we call you next week and go, hey, we need your services again. And sort of that's kind of where we are right now. We're at a position where we have this other problem with recycling and the drop-off site. And if we don't have someone in place right now at the same rate, it's going to cost everyone more money, or we're just going to have to shut it down and stop recycling and stop the drop-off, and then it hurts our residents. So, you know, it's how do you juggle that factor? And it's not about fairness, it's about what the contract says, and also is the contract fair? So that's where we are as far as, you know, this motion for summary judgment and exclusive services and non-exclusive. But what is the intent of the contract to say? And that's where we are now. And, you know, you just kind of have to make the decision on how you want to move forward.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Council Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else?
If we could vote on the amendment, Mr. Chairman, and finish that. Do you want to speak on the amendment,
Yes.
Mr. Teft?
Yes, sir, I would.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Teft, please give your name and address. You have 3 minutes.
Greg Tapp, 3720 West Loyola Drive in Kenner. I didn't know about the amendment before I came up here, but the amendment to me makes more sense than what it was written the first time, mainly because of 2 things. One, it says it's a resolution accepting or authorizing the settlement. Well, how can you authorize a settlement if you don't know what the settlement is? That word itself, authorizing an open checkbook, doesn't sit well. And that's why I agree with what you're saying there. The other thing, though, I want to kind of just bring out, in any lawsuit, there's a 50-50 shot no matter how you're going to look at it. Sometimes you win that 50, sometimes you lose. But as some of y'all have alluded to, there is state law that stands in our favor. And there is certain laws that stands in our favor. And why we would want to just give away the fort when we may have a better than 50% chance, because if state law does give this latitude for that type of contract, it just makes sense that changes our percentage of down to maybe 30, 35, 40% opportunity of them winning, and us a 70% chance of winning or a 60% chance of winning. I don't know. I don't know if we're putting a cart before the horse or not. But I do agree that we as citizens should know, and you as a council, remember last year, as I recall, y'all really put your platform and you wanted to know where the expenses were, how they were being spent, how much was being spent on this, how much was being spent on that. This, as written, takes that away from you. Because it's now saying you're authorizing them to do what you had put a platform on yourselves to govern as a legislative body. I don't know why you'd want to give that up, but I agree with you as far as we should have more transparency with the amount. Now, I also agree with the attorney. How do you give an amount? Well, what you do is, instead of having this resolution that's up, you get them out first, and then you can either call a special meeting, whatever the case may be. At that point in time, then the council can vote based on the amount that they know is firm, whether or not they want to do it. Because what this should be saying is allow them to negotiate on your behalf and on the city's behalf. I agree with the amendment, but I also want to just put in some what I feel is something that y'all should consider as well. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Teft, in the section 1, it says the mayor and/or city attorney are authorized to enter into negotiations to settle.
I know, but this is not what
Okay.
the heading says. Remember, first of all, President Brannigan, right now when the city puts out the public meetings, they don't even include the agenda for the people to look at. You have to go to the website in order to find out what the agenda is going to be. So the public doesn't know. The only thing the public is going to see is what is on this piece of paper right here. They're not going to see what else is in the middle of it, in the end of it, because this administration, for whatever reason, has decided not to include that. So, but I feel like negotiation is good, and it's up to y'all whether you want to settle it, but.
Your 3 minutes is up. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Mr. Morella?
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 51 years. I'm talking on the amendment, and I also want to talk on the original legislation when we get back to it. The amendment first. I support this amendment. I support Councilman Brannigan on this, simply because not only is it a matter of transparency, it's a matter of fact that this is a professional service contract. And the mayor approves these contracts, brings them to the council. If it's $100,000 or more back at that time, now it's 50. So the mayor is involved in a professional service contract, and he should be involved in the negotiations along with the city attorney. Okay, so I agree with the amendment, Councilman Brannigan, since it is a professional service contract. Okay, now, I want to talk on the original legislation when we get back to it.
Okay.
I'll just stand right here.
Okay.
I'm standing here all day.
Ms. Alessandro?
Hi, Stacy Alessandro. First of all, I want to thank the mayor and the administration for even taking a step to try to solve some of these problems. We have been left with a monumental amount of problems from the last administration. So I'm glad we're cleaning that up, and that way we can just, clean things up and move on. So I do applaud y'all for doing that. But I did not agree with the way that it was being done today. I thank you, Councilman Brannigan, for bringing this amendment. I believe it is the correct way to do it. I understand what the attorney was saying, you negotiate in private, of course, but then once a settlement is reached, then you bring it to the public, we digest it. Sometimes the public has very good input, by the way, because when you guys were voting on this garbage contract 2-3 years ago, we stood up here and begged y'all not to do it. And we were 100% right. So sometimes the public input is very valuable. And I would really like, now that we're discussing the same contract, millions of dollars, if a settlement has been reached and signed, fantastic. But I think it is time for the public to have some input on it. As far as, as far as an exclusive contract, I don't even know why the garbage contract is bid as an exclusive contract anyway. a professional services contract. Why? What finesse do you need? You pick up the garbage, you put in the truck, you're done. This, professional services is supposed to be for like architects and people that have talent. If we just went with public bid law, we wouldn't have any of these problems. But when a vendor bids on a non-exclusive contract, this comes along with the deal. They know what they're getting themselves into. I don't feel like anybody has clean hands here. Everybody has been accused in the media and everywhere of doing something wrong. So, I mean, as far as, and the attorney wants to know why did this motion for summary judgment languish? Well, and I know you weren't here, so I'm going to kind of give you a little perspective. The city attorney that we had back then, when we got that judgment that you were talking about, George, for the $217,000, I questioned him, and he, on the record, said that was because of the money we already owed Ramelli for the CPI. I was completely against settling that. I said, no, this isn't right. Show me the invoice that we paid. Where's the invoice? Oh, can't do that, but that's what it was for. Turns out y'all are saying right here today, the attorney, oh no, that 200 and something thousand, we still owe that. That's the kind of attorney that we had. So maybe that could answer your question, why if we maybe have a 50-50 or greater shot, why the attorneys didn't move forward. I mean, there's some questions there. And my last thing is, when y'all do bring the settlement, and bring it to the public and all, is that going to be the entire settlement? Because it seems like there's all kinds of pieces. Now I'm seeing stuff about recycling, which by the way is a scam. I'm seeing all these other things. I would like to know the whole settlement. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Wilmot.
Thank you. I'd just like to address a question I think Mr. Teff had, and the heading that refers to a resolution authorizing settlement. And in the body, it talks about negotiation and the ability to settle. They're different. And if you notice, and correct me if I'm wrong, legal, as far as that's concerned, the body of the resolution is what governs. It's not the heading. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the bodies, again, the body's what's correct. So that's what we go by. The headings sometimes are off. In this case, it is off as well. And it probably should have been amended and corrected as well, but it was an oversight apparently. So just wanted to address that, Mr. Teff. Thank you.
Okay, Council Clerk.
Yes, sir. Let's call a vote on the First Amendment as the clerk has read in. We still haven't voted on that First Amendment.
Wait. Yeah, okay. So we have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, second by Councilmember Brennan on the First Amendment. Council members in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay.
Seeing none, motion passes 7-0. Members of the council have also received another request to amend from the legal department to add a section 3 to read that the mayor and city attorney are authorized to execute the attached settlement agreement in the lawsuit entitled Ramelli Janitorial Service Incorporated versus the City of Kenner in the 24th Judicial District Court for the Parish of Jefferson, case number 806-208, Division J, and to sign and file any and all documents, pleadings, and other papers consistent with the terms of the attached settlement agreement. I have a motion by Councilmember Sharwood, seconded by Councilmember Dunn on the motion, on the amendment as the clerk has read. Any discussion on the amendment?
Councilwoman McKinney?
Yes. My question is, so we admitted the settlement agreement, but can we discuss the settlement?
It's in here.
Yes. Yes, but the public, I don't believe, has received that. So can we yes, can we just let everyone know what it is?
Yes, it is the $200,000, as we discussed a few minutes ago, which is the outstanding CPI that was owed, and everyone apparently had believed it was paid through the federal case, but it was not. So that's the $200,000 that is owed. And then the $1 million is to cover basically how we got to that number was attorney's fees, which were outrageous, and also the cost of things that he paid, more so for his capital investment than anything else. And then we negotiated down to make those payments something reasonable, in a reasonable manner, which was $20,000 a month for the next 50 months. So it's not a lump sum. We've got to come out with $1 million to make this case be settled. And Ms. Alejandro, it is absolutely a full and final settlement. I don't do partial settlements. It's to make it end, go away. Everyone is walks away, and in my experience in a settlement is no one ever walks away happy. Both sides are usually feeling like something is left on the table, and that usually is a sign of a good settlement. And in this matter, no one's happy, no one's, everyone wishes it was less, the other side wishes it was more, but we're trying to make this not be any more than what we're looking at this moment, and we want to make, we want to put this behind us and move forward.
Councilmember Wilmot?
Ms. Dufresne, as far as this settlement agreement and release it's entitled, so this document is now attached to this record, is that correct?
Yes,
So now
put
it's
that
a
in there.
public document.
It's a public
We can talk
document,
about
yes.
the document in its
Yes.
entirety.
Its entirety.
Thank you. As far as the document itself, I note that it's signed by Robert Romelli as president on behalf, I guess, as the president of Romelli.
He has accepted the offer of negotiation that we met with him, and I had him sign that because I feel that I brought it to the council today, seeing that it's signed. It's a matter for you all to vote on it. The public can see it. Nobody's going to walk out of here after that going, wait, they voted on it. Are they going to change the settlement numbers now that we're not here? No. It's a signed document with Mr. Romelli agreeing to the terms that we discussed negotiating with you all in executive session and other times, and it's the figures we discussed. There's not going to be any changes to this document. This is the document that will be final.
This is
If you all agree.
This is a written document and it's signed by the other party.
Yes.
And it has not been signed by the city.
Absolutely not. We can't, nobody in this administration, city attorney's office, or the mayor can sign anything without your all's approval.
Correct.
We can never come in here and have a blanket check, open checkbook and come up with some figure that we want to settle a case for. This not how the government works. We have to come to you all with authority, and like I said before, it's usually an upward authority. We have a high number, and if we can settle under that, great, as long as we don't exceed $1 over what you all give us in executive session. We cannot settle that. We cannot sign a document. We would not.
And I appreciate that, and thank you for that understanding, because that's the way I understand. I'm sure my colleagues do as well. Again, this was signed on February 16th, so it was just signed recently by him.
Yes. I typically would have waited till after you all signed first and then went to him to make sure, there wasn't any changes from you all.
No, I understand.
But in this instance, we just flip-flopped it.
Now, my next question is I think is real important. Dealing with this document itself, is there any expiration date as to when we need to have this signed by the mayor on behalf of the city?
No, I don't believe so. I believe there's a term in there about when to give him the $200,000, but off the top of my head, I don't remember. It's in that document.
So
We have
if
to
my next,
give him the initial payment, the $200,000.
okay, so my next question is, if for those of us who feel like this has not been vetted well enough, what would you say if we actually deferred this matter for one meeting so we can feel like it's more vetted properly? Would that impact this negotiation with this contract, although it does not have any expiration?
I'd have to look at it again real quick to see about the number of days that we were supposed to get him the money, the $200,000 initial payment, if that keeps it going. I want to say it was 5 days. Do you remember? Okay. I've read it a few times. But without the settlement today, not to put, believe me, I'm not trying to pressure anyone to do this, but it's more likely than not put a hold on our other services being enacted. Because I don't know if Bob Romelli is going to agree to start stepping in and doing our recycling and our drop-off site if this hasn't been a settlement reached, because keep in mind, we're in a lawsuit with him. So we're getting ready to start new business, go back to doing new business with him, with someone you're still in an open lawsuit. He
Yeah.
is in the same position. He wants this behind him. He wants this resolved so he can move forward and start doing the right things again for the city.
And y'all got a lot of moving pieces, parts.
We have
I can see
a
that.
lot of stuff
So-
going on right now, and this week has blown up, unfortunately.
And it's possible, too, that before that date, that we can actually enact a special session and have a special meeting before the end of the month.
Before March 1st. And that's to say, if, God forbid, and I don't know, because we've gotten different letters saying different things, that if Ivy Waste doesn't like what's going on by March 1st, that they stop picking up garbage, and then we're in a garbage situation. So we're trying, look, the biggest thing we've all had going on during this whole period is this administration and the council is, we do not want garbage sitting on the street. We want garbage to be picked up at all times, and we've been doing everything we can to make sure garbage gets picked up. And, you know, making sure these moving pieces are all moving at the same time, so if someone pulls the plug and says, I'm not picking up garbage tomorrow, we can pick up the phone and say, can you pick up garbage tomorrow? So,
we
and
all-
the public will have to understand.
We all want that.
Right,
When
so
we're dealing
that's-
with this major issue.
And that's
we
sort of
have to
our, it's
be
another
very
push to
careful.
kind of get things done, and I get it, I understand that, you know, you may want more time, but how much more time, I'm not sure. I don't know how much more time you have.
Okay. That's all I have.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Okay, I have one thing. On the settlement payment, 2A, it says that the $200,000 is as of the execution of the settlement agreement, and it's been brought to my attention that the effective date of this legislation would be March the 6th.
We have a
So,
layover.
because it has to,
Right.
go through the, Council Clerk, you have to advertise it?
Yes, sir. 10 days after publication. Publication will be on the 22nd. It'll become effective on March 6th, and that's following the charter, 2.18.
Keep in mind, so Mr. Romelli would have to know that this is pending on March 6th to be official, to go ahead and start working. And so that would be his good faith in us that, you know, you've signed it, the administration has signed it, and we're moving forward, but that it's officially not being signed until the 6th. I mean, officially not being official till the 6th. So he would start work without, you know, knowing that his pay is coming. But that's what it would
Okay.
be. So would I think that he could go another 10 or 15 days past that date if we push this off? I can't answer that question for him.
Well, I believe that, if I could clarify for you, in the agreement, it states that his first payment would be received on March 1st. And what the councilman is asking is, if we pass this legislation now, it will not be effective until March 6th. However, in your agreement, his first payment is stating March 1st.
And that's the 20,000, yes, that we.
And he's just making sure
Yes,
that,
no,
That's the
no,
first-
no, we can
that's
do
the-
that.
that's the
Oh, yeah,
second
no,
piece of
no.
it.
He knows.
And don't be 10 days late.
Right.
Councilmember Brennan?
Thank you. With all due respect, Councilman Wilmot, the numbers that are in here, as has been said, were what we authorized and discussed in executive session. I understand it's a lot of money, but it's everything that we anticipated as the highest end. This puts it to a close. This puts it to an end. I just don't understand the reason in thinking of a deferral. I think let's wrap it up, let's get it done, and let's move on. Thank you.
you're still on your second amendment, sir. If we could close that amendment, vote on that amendment, and then we can go on.
Okay, so, Councilmember McKinney?
Yes, thank you. I just have a clarification. I know we mentioned about the recycling and them resuming recycling in March, the supplemental services, but that's not part of this agreement,
No.
correct?
Oh, no, not at all.
So that's settled, that's a separate contract
That's-
entirely.
that's-
We're using
We're
the
going back
contract
to
that
the
is
old
on the
contract.
books.
Yes.
The current
Already on the
contract
books.
that
Yes.
we would be just letting them assume supplemental services to get it at a cheaper rate, right?
Yes.
So that's not in this, that's what
No,
I
no,
want to.
it's not even
Or,
at
or not, just,
it's not a cheaper rate, it's a
Right.
rate we're supposed to be charged.
right.
That's the difference. It's not, we're not trying to get it cheaper, we're not trying to get it for less, we're not trying to
Right.
get anything. We just want to be charged what the contract says we're supposed to be charged, and that's where
Right.
this would put us back to, instead of losing money
Okay.
every month.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that it's
That's
not part of
correct.
this, so the only, the part of the settlement is the 200,000,
Yes.
and then the $1 million for,
50 months.
yes, for 15
Yes.
months. As a, okay, thank you, that's all I know.
Councilmember Wilmot?
Councilman Brennan, I just wanted to counter what you said a minute ago. We did have discussions in executive sessions, and that's what they're for. We did not authorize any figures of any kind. That's not what executive session is for. In fact, you do that after, when you come to a public hearing and authorize it. So we never did authorize, and you used the word authorize, we did not do that. So just to make it absolutely clear that that did not happen, so thank you.
Okay, on the Second Amendment, I have motion by Councilmember Sharwarth, second by Councilmember Dunn. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Alessandro?
Yes, hi, I'd like to speak on the Second Amendment, please. Actually, never mind. So anyway, so now, if I understand this correctly, we just had this big discussion about how it's important for transparency in the public to see everything. Do I understand it correctly that now y'all have the actual settlement agreement? The public does not have it. It's not anywhere for us to see. And now, after that big discussion, now y'all are going to go ahead and approve the settlement? Is that what this amendment says? No. I don't know if I'm understanding this correctly.
My, yes, well, this would be, this is just, so we're attaching this as an amendment, and then we'll vote on if we want to attach it as an amendment, correct?
Yeah.
And then if that's amended, then we'll vote on the legislation as a whole.
So right now, you're only voting on the amendment to attach
add.
this
To
or not?
attach it to the
Yes.
legislation.
And a vote for yes, for attaching it is saying that this is the contract, and we're going to approve that. If the second, this is the settlement. I don't know how y'all want to do it, but I just don't want it, if Romelli has already signed it, then let's do it at the next meeting, let the public look at it. The public has not seen any of this. He signed it, now let us look at it. If we think it's good, sign it. But, and as far as him not picking up recycling, who cares? Like, I just asked, is there going to be all these other little things, these little side agreements, verbal agreements maybe, oh, we'll settle for $1 million, but then later on, you'll get the recycling, you'll get the garbage, you'll get whatever it is. If this is just the settlement by itself, who cares about recycling? We're going to talk about that later, and I'm going to tell y'all why that's a scam. Even Greenpeace doesn't approve of recycling anymore, okay? Recycling, forget that. We don't care about recycling, okay? So all we care about is this settlement, which might be good, but let the public see it. I mean, y'all had it right when y'all were talking about the first amendment that was proposed. Thank you.
Councilmember Wilmot?
Thank you, Ms. Alessandro. I just wanted to say I ditto your thoughts, and I believe that you're 100% correct. This should be put off. And after this amendment is put on, I do hereby move for a deferral, one meeting deferral, in order that the public has a chance to digest this. This shouldn't be just put on here the day of the vote. I have an extreme problem with that. That's not good government, period. Thank you.
I have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot. Do I have a second to his one meeting deferral? Seeing none, do I have a second to his one meeting? I have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot, seconded by Councilmember Sharwarth on a
need
one meeting
discussion.
deferral. You can have discussion after the motion's on the floor, sir. Hold on. Motion by Councilmember Wilmot, second by Sharwarth. The discussion will now go to your deferral. Only deferral at this point.
Councilmember Lahat.
Are there any legal issues in deferring this one meeting?
I mean, I think there's no legal issues, no. I mean, there's just gonna be garbage issues, or recycling and pickup issues, and God forbid.
And drop
waste-
site.
And drop site, we'll shut down the drop site. But that's, I'm not saying that as a threat, I'm just wondering, you're asking me what's the issues, and
Yeah.
what's the issues. And, look, I understand some people don't like recycling, and I understand some people do love recycling. It's hard to speak for one person to say, I hate recycling, and another person says, I don't like recycling. I can't.
So the only thing that would be affected potentially would be recycling.
Recycling and the drop site would be shut down, yes.
And then also realize that we have pending litigation that's already begun. There is the potential that we could lose our curbside garbage collection as well. So we have a lot of balls up in the air. You need to understand that, like doing a cost-benefit analysis with regard to settling this case, I know that we discussed in executive session countless things, and I think you said, well, that sounds fairly good to me considering the nature of the case. And Tom, we've spoken a lot about it as well with the partial motion for summary judgment. Again, as Ms. Dufresne had stated, that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to walk away. And with regard to the format for doing your executive session, the reason why you do it in the form of a resolution is that you can go and vote on it after you've got out of executive session. That's why you do it in the form of a resolution as opposed to an ordinance. So I'm strongly urging you guys to reconsider your deferral of this because we have a lot of balls in the air, and it could pose another series of problems for the city of Kenner with regard to collection of waste material.
And maybe the public may or may not know, because I don't know what's out there as far as what's going on with what's going on with Ivy Waste. But originally, when we said, look, we believe you're overcharging us, and I came to all of you all with our figures, and we told him we can't afford to pay you over $100,000 a month for the drop site and to run recycling. That's not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be $46,000, and you're overcharging us, and that's our position. So we are going to cut your drop-off services. We're going to cut the recycling from you. We can't afford to pay you that anymore. Not that we can't afford to pay it. We can't afford to pay his prices. So that is where we are. So it puts us in a position now that Ivy Waste came back to us with a letter saying that if we don't give him back his services, which is the recycling and the drop-off site, we're in default, and he's going to stop all services for the city. He's going to cut it off. So he sends that letter. Believe me, administration, big panic. We talked to you all, big panic. What are we going to do? We start talking. It's really what vamped up the settlement talks with Romelli. Then next thing you know, we get a third letter saying, oh no, we don't know if we mean that or not. We might not cut off services. That's not our intention for curbside. Then we get a lawsuit filed that says, if we don't correct the defect, they're going to cut off services. So really and truly, March 1st, everybody's guess is as good as mine. Is Ivy Waste Trucks going to pick up trash, or is he going to consider us in default because we don't give him back those services, the supplementary services, and agree to pay him time and a half of what he's supposed to be paid? We're not supposed to pay him $96,000 for those two services, but that's what he wants to be paid. We're supposed to pay $46,000. So at what point do we say we can't overpay him, but we can't lose the services? And that's, I guess, the council's decision and how they want to handle this.
Mayor Galuzzi.
Well, the concern is we, in executive session, as you know, we always ask for, in all these lawsuits, it's been, since I was chief, sitting and listening to them, is settlement authority up to this amount. Then you go and negotiate it, come with a deal, and it never does make it back. The public really never sees it. Eric's been here a long time. He said it's really never been done. Doesn't know why it hasn't been done, just never been done. This is a large amount of money. $1.2 million is a lot of money, even for any size government. But this wasn't just done last night. It was signed yesterday because we started this months ago trying to go through these contracts and lawsuits and trying to figure out which ones need to be gotten rid of or renegotiated with some contracts or get rid of contracts. So the numbers aren't going to change. So if you defer today, tomorrow, next week, the numbers in the settlement aren't changing, however long it stays over. So, I mean, if you want to change the process, the way from now on, change the process. Because when we go to executive session, we talk about all this stuff, we ask for y'all, there are no votes taken in there, you come back, they vote out here, and that's it, it's gone. So this one was settlement authority up to, I mean, he wanted $5 million to start, so that's pretty much it. And then I think Michelle has been dealing with garbage since day one, and I'm sure she's tired of garbage and wants to move on, but that's her number one task. But the numbers won't change. The numbers may change if we don't pass it today, and they may go up. So we'll see. So we'll see. That's luck. I would vote on this today.
Councilmember Shorwath.
Ms. Stacy, can I have you stand up for a second, please? Have some of your, I totally understand with you and a lot of the other constituents saying about, you have had a 30-minute notice, basically how much the payments are going to be publicly, okay? You see the rock and a hard place we're stuck between right now? I mean, we're going with this if we do or if we don't. Again, where we're going to go with this? Do I like it? Not really. All right, I wish it had been out there longer, but circumstances happen, things happen fast. And this is one of the best deals. I mean, I don't like it. By no means do I like it. It's the best of a worst deal that we're going to get. And we're stuck here. I mean, if we go forward and defer it, then we don't know what the conditions are going to be. We don't know if IV is going to be there March 1st or March 2nd, because March 2nd is the next meeting. And then if we approve it on the 2nd, of course, when will the next garbage collection be? You know, when will it? I mean, we don't know.
There's more than 2 garbage contractors in the city. There's, I think, years ago when we discussed it, they said there was like 4 within 15 miles. Have y'all contacted anybody else and said, hey, in the event of an emergency, and because if 5E goes away, his garbage cans go away, so we're not going to have garbage cans regardless.
Right.
Is there an emergency? I mean, it's a non-exclusive franchise. Is there an emergency third vendor that would be willing to pick up our garbage in the meantime till we get through with this?
And at what cost?
Well, I don't know.
That would probably...
Well, I don't know, but I mean, if the settlement was signed by Romelli, he can't change the terms of the settlement. He's already agreed to it. So it's either going to be that or not, and all I'm asking for is the public to look at it and say yes or no. I mean, we might say yes. I mean, maybe there's a good chance we're going to say yes. I trust these guys. You know, I know the mayor's doing everything he can for our best interest. But it doesn't negate the fact that there is a process that has not been followed. And if y'all are all agreeing that we were doing it wrong, that they weren't coming out of executive session and voting and the public got to see it, I think that's what they were saying before, that it never got voted on, whatever they were saying with the public. And now it's not happening with this one either. We're just finding out now. We haven't even seen that document. Now would be a great time to start to fix the process with this, the biggest one. But I mean, I do agree that it's kind of it's not kind of, it is a very difficult situation. What I would like to know, I guess the nut in the shell, in the nutshell is, if the city does not sign the contract today, and either y'all have a special session in a couple of days or something, whatever it's going to take to give the public a couple of days at least, some notice to even at least see this. We're not even seeing it. The people at home that are homebound, they can't even see this. Just let us see it and then come back and sign it. I mean, it can't go away because he's already signed it. And I still don't understand this, the last part. is if the legislation doesn't become effective by law until March 6th, how can the contract say we pay him on March 1st? How are we even going to legally do that?
That was when the contract was originally drafted, and it's been back and forth, so we just needed to push that date back, so.
But what does the contract say right now?
It says March 1st. It says March 1st. Get it?
So can you even vote on a contract that's already been signed when the terms of the contract are going to have to be amended? Doesn't that even negate his signature?
It's a settlement document. It's not a contract, it's a settlement document. So he knows that we're gonna pay him, and he knows that there's a layover, and he knows there's a wait time. So originally, we'd hoped to maybe, get this done maybe sooner, or with different time. It just has March 1st on it. I'm not, as an attorney and talking about the settlement, that March 1st date does not worry me.
So if we amend the contract, the settlement agreement, if we
We're not
amend
gonna-
that
we're
to
not gonna amend
change the date,
We just have the date. It would still be his March 1st payment. Okay, so whether we make it March 15th, March 20th, I would consider that still his first payment in March is what the intent of that was to be. So if we paid him on March 25th, I would say that's the first payment, and then, so it's supposed to be the first of every month.
it's kind of hard for me to
Ms. Alessandro,
Debate-
your 3 minutes is up.
debate you when I can't even see the contract. How can I even respond?
Mr. Al Morello?
Al Morello, 4260 East Royal Drive, 5th District, 51 years. I support the deferral, and I'm going to tell you why the public is so adamant about this. I agree with some of the mayor's comments, but the public is irate about this thing because 3 years ago, Mr. Alessandro was right on the money. I was one of those voices that came up here and opposed this ill-fated move. But this is what happens when City Hall works for the political establishment and the special interests and ignores the citizens. We came up here and we told you why we opposed this move. That the 180-day clause should have been invoked, and Rinaldi wouldn't have had this recourse. We here because the council didn't do its job back then. And to make matters worse, 4 of you all are still on this council who voted for this ill-fated decision. The 3 new members wasn't here, but there was only 1 dissenter out of the 7 of you all at that time, and it was Councilman Calvin who voted no. 2. Okay, I'm sorry, I apologize, Councilman Wilmot, but the majority voted for this nonsense. Now, we gotta pay the price. I don't want anything paid to Rinaldi until the public sees these figures. His money's tied up as well. So I don't want anything approved today. I want it deferred, and I want those figures brought to the public.
That's 3 minutes, Mr. Al.
Thank you, my friend.
And I abstained from the vote on the Romelli deal,
Okay.
just to set the record straight.
All right.
Mr. Teft?
Greg Taft, 3720 West Viola Drive. I do want to see that deferment because I think it's in the best interest, and it also shows transparency to the public. Now, as it was said that they received a letter from IV that they were going to cancel, then IV sent another letter after that letter saying no, they were not. Mistakes happen, and I'm not so sure if I would make a decision, you, the council, on fear, because that would be the wrong way to make a decision. All I'm saying is that I don't think it's IV's position to want to walk away from Kenner. I think IV wants to stay in Kenner. The question is there seems to be a breakdown, or seems to be something going on that trying to get to the bottom of what is due IV. But that would be between the mayor and us trying to work with IV and work in a fashion that would try to resolve it rather than try not to resolve it. I get the impression that we're probably not trying to resolve it. But it doesn't matter. IV said they are not pulling out March 1st in their second letter. So I wouldn't make your decision today based on fear. I don't think that's going to, I do think the city needs to probably keep pursuing to see what is available, but that's as far as I would go. The deferment, I think, is needed, and I think we should, and y'all should consider deferring it, just so that we have transparency and we have time to let the public know what is actually taking place. Because as it was said earlier, unless we want to contradict it, y'all work for the public, the constituents of Kenner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Teft. Councilmember Shawwal. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Dunn.
I was told that this would not change either way go because Mr. Rumeli have already signed a contract, right?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, were we told that this would not change one way or another because Mr. Rumeli have already signed the contract, right?
What would not
I mean,
change? I'm sorry.
That the numbers of the figures.
On the settlement, no, the
It's
settlement
not
numbers
the
are not,
set- I
the
meant
settlement
the
numbers are
settlement.
not gonna change. That's
So
the
if it's-
final settlement numbers.
Right.
So it's just a matter of, do you wanna accept the settlement, or do you not wanna accept the settlement? That's the bottom line.
Right, so if you defer it, what difference does it make? It's not gonna change the settlement either way it goes.
Councilmember Wilmot.
Thank you, Council President. What makes a difference is what I've been saying all along. The public needs notice. They will only have notice, what now? Maybe 30 minutes of the amounts? To me, that's outrageous. That should never, never happen, especially when you're dealing with a settlement of this magnitude. $1.2 million? Come on. This shouldn't happen. A deferral is in order strictly because the public has a right to know. Our taxpayers are the ones who elected us and put us here. And we're not going to listen to them? We're going to give away $1.2 million? Maybe we shouldn't give, maybe the judgment, if we push that issue, it would come out zero. We would zero them. If that happens, then we gave away 1.2 million? No. Well, 1 million. The 200 million, I understand. 200,000, I'm sorry. I understand. That apparently is dealing with the CPI, and that has to be paid as of yet, or should be, as far as what legal said earlier. But we got a major issue dealing with public notice here, and this is in our face. And not only that, the council is being put in a very awkward position today. And if we support this, we're saying it's okay to do. This is not okay to do. This should be noted from here on in, whether we change the law or not. We're not going to go ahead and do this when the public isn't being put on notice properly. They haven't had time to digest this. We barely had time to digest it. We've just seen this. This is the first time I've seen it in writing, just a few hours ago. And then we deal with this. Now we got notice of the actual resolution Monday. So here it is Friday. I just have the whole thing, and I understand that the administration has been working their due diligence. Oh my God, I understand, and there's a lot of moving pieces, parts. But don't forget about the council. Don't forget about the people. Don't forget about putting public notice out. Don't forget about letting everybody know so everybody can have their part. It's not being done right now. And that's why I'm saying a one-meeting deferral is in order. And vote your conscience. Thank you.
Mayor Glazer.
We told you the numbers in executive session over 3 weeks ago. So it's not that it just came up yesterday. So, I mean, that's the process that we have in place, that we go. Normally in these, the minor, mostly slip and falls and car crashes, it's settlement authority up to a certain amount of money. But this one was a specific dollars amount, and we negotiated down how we were going to pay it over the 50 months. That was still in the, after the executive session, is how we're going to come up with $1.2 million to give somebody to settle a lawsuit. So Deferring it doesn't change the facts of the, so I just don't see the need to defer it.
And then, if I may speak, with the, using the executive session as a vehicle to convey information, because at that point in time, that is when we're in settlement negotiations. If you look back in your time on council, do you discuss with the public, once you've come to an executive session, and agreements about settling of civil service matters for our employees? Because what you do is then you're now setting a precedent for things such as that. There is a reason that we have that vehicle of executive session, because there are subject matters that need to be kept within. I do distinctly recall discussing every little aspect of this with regard to the money. Yes, again, it's a very high number, but that's the purpose for which the executive session is used, so that you guys can have an unfettered view at what's going on. And again, when you come out, do you discuss the civil service, plans or things of that nature? When you go into executive session, do you come out and say what you discussed on it? Have you ever? And so that's, I just want to bring that to you. The vehicle, we're using the appropriate vehicle, and that's executive session for discussion.
Did you want to say something? Go ahead, Tom.
And I'd just like to address those last two persons making comments, and I agree with you, Mayor. We did learn about it in an executive session. That was a verbal thing. We didn't see anything in writing. We didn't get the actual resolution until Monday, and then we didn't get this settlement agreement until this morning. So that's what I'm referring to. It's not the executive session that has any flaws in it. I think y'all did an admirable job, and don't get me wrong. And we were notified at that point in time. But that's not where I have a fallout. My problem is the public having notice. The public is not getting the notice the way this is being handled. And so that's why I'm asking for a deferral. It's strictly so they can have time to digest this. I think they have a right to, and that's why I'm supporting a deferral. Thank you.
Councilmember McKinney?
Yes, and my comment is, I hate hearing about trash. I don't want to hear about it anymore. If we never had to talk about Ramelli ever again, or Ivy Waste, then that's the day, hallelujah. But I think that I'm not for the deferment, because I think that this is a public meeting. We're discussing this in a public meeting. It's a public setting. There is a huge swath of public that is sitting right in front of us. That's why I asked for the clarifying question of what is included in this, in this document, what is part of the settlement, what are the terms. So while it would be nice and ideal to, have us ruminate over it for two more weeks, my vote is not going to change, because I think we want to move forward, and we want to, frankly, we were, at the time that all of this transpired, we were lied to by the administration. We know that, and there was multiple times that we were lied to in many different manners. So, they said, this is fine, that we're not going to get sued, or we may get sued, but we're going to win, and all of these different considerations. But quite honestly, we were lied to, and we need to move forward. This is a new day in Kenner. 2 weeks, a deferral is not going to change. It's not going to change this agreement. So I really don't. I don't think that we need to discuss this again next meeting, and I think we just need to vote on it today. So.
Okay. I want to clarify one thing. This administration did not lie to us. Okay, it was the prior administration. But I'm not supporting the deferral, because I hear what Ms. Alessandro is saying, and people that came to the mic in wanting a deferral. Nothing's going to change. My concern is making sure that services do not have a lapse. And I got the calls last time when I drove through Canesboro, where Mayor Glazer lives. Basically, it looked like a war zone, okay? I don't want to have to go through that again. Yeah, I do not.
Keeps his houses, nobody's business.
Wait, what?
How he keeps his houses.
But the situation is, like Councilmember McKinney said, nothing's going to change. The amounts aren't going to change, and I think we need to get this thing moving through.
We wouldn't be doing this if it was 120,000 or 12,000. Let's go.
Okay.
On deferral. Council members, please vote on deferral at this time.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay.
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 Motion fails. 5-2. Council members. What? 2-5. Council members Dunn, McKinney, George Brannigan, Lahat, and Brennan are opposed. Motion fails. To defer, back to your original motion.
Okay. Original motion.
Your original motion, your
Okay, so
legislation
we have a
as
motion by
amended.
Council, the
We
Second
vote-
Amendment is
We
what we're
voted on the
now.
Second Amendment. It passed 7-0. Your Second Amendment has passed.
Oh, it's passed?
Yes, sir. You're back
Okay.
to your original.
No, that was, the First and Second Amendments passed. That was for the deferral. Now we're back to the original legislation?
As amended.
We didn't vote on the Second Amendment. We didn't vote on the Second Amendment.
You didn't?
No.
I can't go back and look either. So let's just go ahead and call another vote on the Second Amendment, just to be sure.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Shorwath, second by Councilmember Dunn on the Second Amendment. Council members in favor, say aye. Aye. Council members opposed, say nay.
See, motion passes 6-1 to amend. Council members Wilmot is opposed. Back to your original resolution as amended.
We have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, second by Councilmember McKinney. Council members in favor, say aye. Aye. Council members opposed, say nay.
Motion passes 6-1. Councilmember Wilmot is opposed. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We have none. Item 15 is acceptance of contracts and similar matters approved by the mayor. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 13,154, an ordinance accepting the proposal from Covington Sales and Service Incorporated for parts and labor to repair Unit 9063 in the amount of $26,665.12.
Have a motion by Councilmember Brennan, second by Councilmember Dunn. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this? Seeing none, council members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Council members opposed say nay.
Seeing none, motion passes 7-0. Item 15B is summary ordinance number 13,155. An ordinance approving an agreement with Comtech to furnish and install new FortiGate units for resource centers with web filtering and to set up hybrid exchange in an amount not to exceed $10,000.
We have a motion by Councilmember McKinney, second by Councilmember Wilmot to approve.
Yes, sir, and I have an amendment. If you could, please let me read it into the record. At the request of the IT department, in the caption, we would like to change the amount from $10,000 to $30,000 and add the words, at the request of the Kenner Police Department to purchase and implement the same Sentinel-1 security software the city of Kenner has gone to. That verbiage will be also added to section 2.
I have a motion by Councilmember McKinney, second by Councilmember Wilmot to amend. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, council members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Council members opposed say nay.
Motion passes 7-0 to amend. Back to your original motion as amended.
Have a motion by Councilmember McKinney, second by Councilmember Wilmot. Council members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Seeing none, motion passes 7-0. Item 15C is summary ordinance number 13,156. An ordinance approving an agreement with Digicom Systems Incorporated for software and hardware system upgrades and other projects on an as-needed basis in an amount not to exceed $120,000.
Have a motion by Councilmember Brennan, second by Councilmember McKinney. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? I have one question. Did we have a cost on this from last year? Or is this new equipment or hardware?
No, this is a service contract for our consultant. It was $90,000. We're raising the cap because we hit the cap last year. We've been using them more this year.
Okay, thank you. Council members in favor say aye, opposed say nay.
Aye. Seeing none, motion passes 7-0. Item 15D is summary ordinance number 13,157, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of laptops and related items on an as-needed basis from Lenovo under State of Louisiana contract number 4400000947 and an amount not to exceed $200,000 annually.
We have a motion by Councilmember McKinney, second by Councilmember Hatt. Anyone wishing to speak on this? Seeing none, council members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Seeing none, motion passes 7-0. Item 15E is summary ordinance number 13,158, an ordinance approving an agreement for advertising services with Capital City Press, LLC, and an amount not to exceed $80,000 for the Kenner Police Department.
Got a motion by Councilmember Brennan, second by Councilmember Brannigan. Anyone wishing to speak on this item? Councilmember Wilmot?
Yeah, this is a contract that's already in place that was executed during the fiscal year. This is the mechanism in which we use it for recruiting purposes. It crosses all social media platforms, but basically since we're executing two such contracts in the same fiscal year, it takes it to the level that's required for council approval. So out of respect to the council and transparency, that's why we're executing this contract in front of the council. Capital City Press is a company that produces and puts out our advertising for recruiting purposes. I think we've had over 500,000 views in the first 6 to 7 months. It's brought in over 200 engagements with the recruiters and about 71 applications. So it's proven effective. But you know, now that we're going to execute the second term of the contract, we wanted to bring it to the council.
Thank you, Chief. Councilmember Shawworth?
Is it working?
It's absolutely working. Yeah.
All right, that's the best thing.
Yeah, and it's good exposure for the entire city because as people come to our sites, it exposes the other departments in the city as well.
Okay, council members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Seeing none, motion passes 7-0. Item 15F is summary ordinance number 13,159, an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid from L Technologies LLC to provide food service for the Kenner Police Department jail facility in accordance with sealed bid number 22-6707 for an amount not to exceed $75,000 annually.
Have a motion by Councilmember Brennan, second by Councilmember Brannigan. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this?
I'll just say that this is basically cutting our food services in half from what it was in the last year. It was about $20 a meal. We rebid it because of budgetary restraints, and it's actually come back at half that cost.
Perfect. That's good news. Council members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Seeing none, motion passes 7-0. Item 15G is summary ordinance number 13,160, an ordinance authorizing the use of State of Louisiana contract number 4400021185 for networking services and the use of the State of Louisiana contract number 4400007560 for the purchase of parts, storage equipment, and related items on an as-needed basis, both from Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Company, in an amount not to exceed $200,000 annually.
Got a motion by Councilmember McKinney, second by Councilmember Lahat. Is anyone wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, council members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15H is summary ordinance number 13,161, an ordinance authorizing the use of State of Louisiana contract number 44000-21580 with Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Company to furnish and install hardware and software to replace outdated servers in an amount not to exceed $300,000 annually.
I have a motion by Councilmember McKinney, second by Councilmember Sharwarth.
Mr. Chairman, I have another amendment at the request of the IT department. They would simply like to delete the word annually at the end of the caption and in section 1.
Okay. Councilmember Wilmot.
Jay, if you will. Just give a general explanation.
This is to replace our outdated servers in our main server room. It's a Hewlett-Packard cloud on-prem system that is going to give us better functionality, plus it's replacing 8-year-old servers.
Can you give us an explanation as to the amendment?
Annually, it was a mistake on my part. We put annually in there, not realizing it. That didn't describe it correctly. It needed to be removed because it's going to be $300,000 over the course of the contract, not every year. It's a 5-year contract.
Jay, how long will this server last?
5 years. Well,
5 years?
They're good for 5 years, and then we would look at upgrading and renewing in the contract.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion by, I'm sorry, Councilmember McKinney.
Yes, thank you, Council President. I just want to thank Mr. Sprague. He met with us and offered to meet with us on all of these amendments, and particularly this one. This one is a great deal for the city, and so we're improving all of our hardware and getting new hardware and software at a discount, or not a discount, but a better negotiated price than we previously had. And given that it's more of a lease, we're going to be able to get upgraded.
We have better upgrades and better
Right,
support.
better upgrades. And so I think this is just, I want to say kudos to him for doing this, taking the bull by the horn and being proactive, because as we know, in today's world, technology is super important. The safety of technology, protecting the city. A year and a half ago, we got, our servers, I don't remember even when, we had to shut down for a couple of days. So having new servers, having new software is going to add to that and protect us as a city as well. So thank you, and thank you for being proactive about that.
Thank you.
Okay, council members in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Motion passes 7-0 to amend.
Back to the original motion, motion by Councilmember McKinney, seconded by Councilmember Sharwarth. Council members in favor say aye.
Aye. Motion
Opposed, say nay.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15I is summary ordinance number 13,162. An ordinance approving an agreement with Desire Line LLC to provide project management, grant management, and administrative services in accordance with RFP number 22-6698 for an amount not to exceed $185,000 for the Kenner Police Department.
I have a motion by Councilmember Brennan, second by Councilmember Brannigan. Is anyone wishing to speak on this item? Councilmember Wilmot?
Chief, if you will, just give an explanation.
Yeah, basically, it's not just for the Kenner Police Department. We made it inclusive of the city council and administration as well. But grant writing, seeking grants has become such a niche that it used to be you might be able to have somebody in-house to do this, but now, due to the specific, the details of grants and seeking grants, managing grants, all the programs associated, we put an RFP out because we realize there's money outside that we're not capturing at federal level, state level, especially going through the seasonal crises we have here with flooding and different FEMA and watershed acts and things of that nature that's exclusive to us. So we did put out an RFP. This firm was ranked the highest. So that's what we're asking you to select or to vote on today. It's a not to exceed amount of $185,000, and I hope they get it all, because that means we've kept them very busy, and we're going to reap the benefits of that, because they don't get paid until there's something for them to manage outside some startup money. So I'm asking your support, and we think this is a way to capture some outside money to help us with our budget issues.
Thank you, Chief, and you're on top of your game. This shows it. Thank you.
Well, I know that's why everybody's here. It wasn't the trash stuff, so.
Mayor Glazer?
Well, the best thing he said is we can all use it, but he's paying for it. So that works out well.
We'll talk about that later. So.
That's a great deal. Council members in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15J is summary ordinance number 13,163. An ordinance approving change order number 2 to the agreement with Hard Rock Construction LLC dated May 23, 2019, regarding West Esplanade Bridges at Duncan Canal, State Project number H.011731, Federal Aid Project number H.011731, Kenner Public Works Project number 2014-001A-CIP, for an increase of $1,778,717.49, and to add 185 working days for the Department of Public Works.
I have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, second by Councilmember Shuttleworth. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Mr. Al Morella.
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 51 years. I was under the impression, after this project come in 3-4 years behind schedule, cost the city of Kenner millions of dollars more than what it should have, by Hard Rock, that this project was complete. When I didn't see any more work crews out there and the roadway was finally open. Now I'm looking at this on the agenda today. What is going on here? Is this some kind of work that wasn't done properly? Something they gotta revisit and come back and fix? I mean, I need an explanation on what this is about. And one more thing, before I get the explanation, I hope y'all got all the documentation, and I'd like to also know what action has been taken against this company for what they've cost us and what the years they was behind schedule. And I hope y'all got the documentation on this. Remember this, the next time they should bid on a project in the city of Kent. So an explanation first.
Mr. Morella, the project started on June 24, 2019, and finished, the final inspection was June 22nd, 22, 2 years, 363 days. And I would ask that our CAO, Jose Gonzalez, speak on this.
Yes, it's a federal aid project. It's 50-50, 50% local money, 50% federal money. This is the change orders. Yes, the project was finished back in June, okay? However, there are a lot of pending items, especially one pertaining to a sluice gate that replaced earthen dams that were approved in the plans and specifications. That's the big ticket item with the change order. Yes, it took it took 3 years to complete. The number of working days that were assigned to this project by the state DOTD called for the project to be completed in roughly 2.5 years. They went roughly 6 months over that time. And now some of that time can be justified because of the pandemic, weather, and hurricanes. And some of the time can also be justified because the earthen dams that were approved on the plans and specifications to dewater the work zone, kind of became problematic for the contractor and unsafe for the workers. And there was a change order that required that those earth dams be abandoned, and in lieu of the earth dams, to construct a temporary steel sheeting system that what is called the sluice gate to allow water to circulate in the canal during rain events.
I got some time left, Councilman?
Yes.
I'd like to respond. First of all, Mr. Gonzalez, thank you for your explanation. Second, it doesn't matter whether it's federal dollars or whether it's local dollars. It all comes out the taxpayer's pocket. And the next thing is,
No, I can defer, deny it, but what I can tell you by looking at the history of the project, they may have walked off the site due to what they consider to be an unsafe conditions because of the earthen dams, and they were requesting that in lieu of the earthen dams, they be allowed to design a steel sluice gate system just to make sure that the work zone was safe for the workers to work on. So yes, during that period of time, there was some contention, between the contractors, state DOTD, and the city of Kenner, but that delay was primarily caused by the earthen dam versus the sluice gate concept.
Let's just keep all the documentation. And
Absolutely.
one thing in closing, I understand also they're well connected all over this area.
Look,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Morella. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Ms. Alessandro?
Hi. So I'm wondering, is there anybody that still works for the city that was an engineer on this project?
No, ma'am, not that I know.
Thank you. Is there anybody in this room that was an engineer on the project?
Yes, there are a number of individuals that manage the project, DOTD engineers, professional engineers that are here today, and the city's assigned construction engineer, two of them are here today. They were assigned to the project, and DOTD and the city's assigned engineers were assigned to negotiate this change order. By the way, this change order, 3, 4, 5 months ago, it started with a price tag of roughly $3.3 million. And it has taken 3 months for all these engineers, DOTD and the city's assigned construction engineer, to lower that change order from 3.3 to 1.7 and some change.
Thank you. Okay, so my question would be, we have a ton of engineers, and none of them knew that when you're working in a canal in swampy Louisiana with 2 canals intersecting, and you're going to be doing excavation work, that probably putting a few sand berms when we have hurricanes on, nobody thought that, hey, maybe we shouldn't do it like that from the get-go? Why wasn't it engineered like this in the beginning? And then my second question is, we have all these people, these monitors, layers and layers and layers from all these agencies, and yet a pile cap was left under the bridge, and that's why we had that hump, which was an aggravation to the citizens. How many times this bridge has been repaired? Are you telling me that the workers removed the other, 3 of them, and then when they got to the 4th one, nobody said, well, hey, we're leaving this one? They didn't ask their boss. The multiple monitors that are being paid daily, we're paying hundreds, I don't even know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars for monitors. Nobody said, out of 20 people, why are we leaving this pile cap? They just left it, and then it gets left there, and then it took a citizen, when we asked for that meeting, which Hard Rock didn't even show up, I don't even know if they're here today, and we pointed out what the problem was. They were like, oh, we don't know. Well, we're like, well, no, a citizen went out there and measured. We're telling you what the project is. We have to tell y'all what the problem is, and now you're coming back and wanting $1.7 million more. How about a penalty for what they put us through? How about a penalty for that? Shouldn't some of that be deducted? And then if there's another change order coming, what is that going to be for? Why are they still repaving as of last week? They took a whole chunk out of the bridge, a whole panel, and repaved. It was done a year ago, but last week they're repaving a huge section? When does our warranty, we only get 1-year warranty. When is that going to start? Did it start a year ago? Are we already out of warranty?
Ms. Alessandro, your 3 minutes is up.
I agree with you, but I'm going to tell you what I know. This made it to the agenda today because they did fix a defect last week. Because when I was driving over it, you'd feel something was happening. So Jose assured me last week it would get fixed. We put it on the agenda. This isn't the last change order. The next one is the final, accepting the project as complete, and that's when the penalties will be assessed.
So
So we are assessing.
It will be addressed.
It'll be
at
several
that point.
$100,000 in penalties, yes. So we'll see what. Well, Jose knows all this stuff front and back. They still trying to I guess, finalize all the line items of what stuff cost, what we paid. That's correct, right?
This legislation by no means accepts the project as complete. It's a change order for some item of work that took place last year. Actually, last year before this new administration took over. With regards to the end bends, there were 4 end bends, 2 westbound and 2 eastbound. My understanding is that all 4 end bends have been removed. Why that end bend on the westbound bridge on the eastern side was not removed, I do not have that answer. But I have been assured that all 4 end bends have been removed.
Do you know what was the latest, the huge repair that they just did? I mean, they repaid half of that. Why?
I was complaining about it,
Okay.
self-serving, because
Okay, thank you.
we weren't paying any money until they went out and fixed what I thought was something wrong with it.
Thank you.
I can't tell you what was
Thank you,
wrong with
Mayor.
it, but it's much better.
Okay.
But just to let you know, the DOTD, state DOTD's chief engineer signed off on this December 27th. So there's 7 engineers that signed off on this change order. So it's a lot of money. I don't know if you saw the DOTD's kind of cheat sheet on what happened with this sluice gate is the smaller canal number 2 is east-west equalizer canal and had no appreciable flow during rain events. But when you were in the Duncan outflow canal, it's a stronger current. And the contractor didn't want his workers down in it with the earth and dams. I've learned a lot about this stuff in 7 months. Still don't understand a lot of why things are done, but the DOTD engineers, when bridges are replaced, it's not an uncommon practice where they dig down and just cut pilings off. They missed one, yes, we know, but, and I was told if you drive on Williams Boulevard at I-10 and you go over that canal, you can feel the pilings under it now. That's why every 15 years it's ground and there's a new overlay, which is coming sometime in the next 2 or 3 months. So
That $1.5 million, the big sluice
that's
change
just,
order, did we get did Kenner just accept that figure, or do we have documentation, this many hours for a backhoe, this many hours, you know, is it broken down, and has it been cross-referenced with the manual to see if those figures are in line with
Ms.
what they should
Alessandro,
be?
your 3 minutes was up. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This change order has been scrutinized by the city's assigned construction engineer, which are all PEs with tons of experience. Furthermore, you know, this change order was also reviewed and approved by DOTD engineers, the construction chief engineer and the chief engineer. Yes, it has been totally scrutinized. It started as a $3.3 million change order, and it took all those engineers to come to terms with the contractor and lower that change order amount from 3.3 to roughly the $1.7 million. And again, let me emphasize, this change order, this legislation does not approve the project as complete. We still gotta come back to the council for one final change order that is gonna accept. And on that final change order, I've been told that there will be liquidated damages to the tune of roughly $280,000 for the work not being completed in proper time.
And I want to make a comment on the gate that they had to put in. I had talked to the construction company, and when they pulled their people off the job, what happened was they had a 400-foot span, and when you put up the mud dams, when it breaks, if they have guys working in a 400-foot span, they're history, okay? So it was a safety issue. And then the reason it took so long is because you had to go through DOTD, Jefferson Parish, I think the Corps of Engineers in the city of Kenner to get all of that done. So when you're bringing 4 municipalities together trying to get a change done in what happened here, that's what caused them to be off of the job for some of the time. We didn't want to pay for workers sitting out there twiddling their thumbs, I wouldn't think. But the change order is $1.78 million. and the gate is 1.5 of it. So, and the city of Kenner is responsible for 50% of it. Councilmember Wilmot.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. Gonzalez, I have a few questions. And going back, it looks like this project, this change order, has already been approved by Richard Lambert Engineers, DOTD local engineers, as well as DOTD headquarters engineers in Baton Rouge. Is that your understanding?
No, that's not just my understanding, that's totally correct.
Okay. And there have been, the total estimated cost of the construction was 14 million. The bid amount was right under 12 million. There's a difference or an overrun of 2 million. Can you explain that? Just what it means?
What means that there was another change order that was approved by, some time ago, change order number 1. Okay, that contributes to the total of $2-point-something million. The change order today is for 1.7. What does that mean? It could mean a number of things. Like the one today, it means that we had to repair some of the recreational park on the northeast corner of the project. We had, as per Jefferson Parish, we had to install steel sheeting and rock at each one of the ends of the box cover to prevent erosion. There were a number of things that took place during change order number 1 that were not in accordance to the approved plans and specs, whether it was unforeseen conditions or added quantities. But it all equates to what we envisioned the cost of the ultimate project being $12 million and $14 million and some change.
Okay, and
if there's any consolation with this, when this project was bid, the design consultant had to estimate the construction cost of the project. The DOTD also had to estimate the construction cost of the project. So if there's any consolation, those two construction costs were higher than what we're going to end up paying for this project after all the change orders are behind us.
even the bidders, I presume, the first bidder came in, which did the project, was right under 12 million. Then the next bidder was right under 12 million as well. Then the next one was close to 17. It jumps to 17 million. So we're coming in still under the third bidder, the 17.
You're coming in under the third, fourth, and fifth, and you're coming under the design consultant's construction estimate before the bids started, and you're coming under the state DOTD independent construction estimate before the project was bid. I realize that, that's no consolation. We're still going to be responsible for 50%.
Right.
The problem here now is that this change order has been approved by all parties. It has been well reviewed. It has taken the construction engineer and the contractor and DOTD personnel 3 to 4 months to review the contents of this change order. 3 to 4 months to get to where we are right now.
And there's been delays, and it looks like it's 47 days of delays.
Well, this project was delayed more than 47 days. The contractor is going to be penalized 47 days.
Exactly.
Some of those delays are justifiable because of weather conditions. The sluice gate, like the mayor had indicated, when it becomes a safety problem, everybody had to regroup and develop an alternate method of construction to keep the workers safe on that trench. And then the contractor had to design the sluice gate. So yes, there were delays, but those delays are being given to the contractor. The same thing with weather conditions, the same thing with the pandemic, the same thing with hurricanes. However, at the end of the day, my understanding is they're still going to be penalized $280 some more thousand for delays.
And so some of them are justified and some of them aren't, basically.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So that's the difference. And then we have, well, that covers it. Thank you very much. Awesome. Appreciate your explanation on this and giving us the understanding behind it. Thank you.
The only other thing I wanted to say on this is, basically, January 27th is when, December 27th is when DOTD approved this change order. And I don't think that anyone in the city of Kenner's administration or council should be on the wrong side of DOTD because of the projects, major projects that we have ongoing and in the future. So it's a situation where we want to stay on the right side of DOTD too.
Yeah, because when I made the opening comments of the 3 major projects we have coming, it's all coming out of the same federal monies. So you don't want to build something and not pay our bills. I know this has been a hot topic. But before we move on, I'd like to thank Lloyd Lutton, Arthur Ledette, Richard Scowen, and Michael Duplantis, all engineers on this project. And the one, Lloyd, came all the way from Florida today just to spend this afternoon with us. So thank y'all, guys.
Mardi Gras weekend, Mayor.
He's leaving today.
Is that him with the daiquiri?
Do we have anyone else wanting to speak on this item? Okay, council members in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15K is summary ordinance number 13,164. In order to approve an amendment number 2 to the agreement with Beacon Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration Incorporated for air conditioning, heating, and refrigeration services, labor only, extending the agreement 1 year and increasing the agreement amount by $150,000 for a total not to exceed amount of $400,000 for the Department of General Services.
Have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot, second by Councilmember Dunn. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Mr. Morella.
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 51 years. I understand the increase has probably got a lot to do with the 1-year extension. Why are we extending this contract? Is this additional work, or I'd like to get an explanation on the extension.
Yeah, this is for, we extending it because all of either repair work mainly that they've done in the past year. We got to our cap pretty quick because of moving into Macy's, trying to get that unit up and running, and just the expenses of relocating and getting buildings back up and running. We just felt it best. It's a service. It's a service contract.
So that's what it is. Then it's actually additional. It's actually additional work, is why you're extending it 1 year. And this $400,000 is the cap. Okay, so it could reach 400,000, and again it might not, but that's the cap. Okay, thank you, man.
Look, the only thing I want to add to that, Al, is the labor only. We're not purchasing equipment with this contract. Just labor only on an as-needed basis. Are we going to reach that cap? No, likely not.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Gloria.
Councilmember Wilmot.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Glorioso, one more question. Do you think, and I'm looking at this figure because this is a large figure that we typically don't see, and I understand that there's been other projects that have been in the past that we've had to address, and like you say, the Macy's and Greenwald and so forth. That being said, is it next year without those items? We would expect this figure to drop pretty good. Is that correct?
Yeah. I don't see it getting up to this again next year.
Okay.
That's just to say, if some of these older units we still have throughout some of the major complexes, like the gymnasiums and that are 15, 20 years old. As long as they're still running, we won't reach this.
Does this impact the Freon issue at all?
Well, I mean, it could. I mean, it depending on how much they got to put into the units.
And I say that, I mean the new units, getting new units versus old units, and the ones we got to replace.
Yes, and we are going to the new Freon.
Okay. Will this contract here in particular help that situation?
It should, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glorioso. Okay, council members in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is an ordinance ratifying the emergency repair of 35th and Old Miss Lift Station Pump Number 1 by Precision PSI LLC in the amount of $33,926.86 for the Department of Wastewater. Item 16B is an ordinance ratifying the emergency repair of 24th and Delaware Lift Station Pump Number 2 by Fluid Process and Pumps LLC in the amount of $29,870 for the Department of Wastewater. Item 16C is an ordinance authorizing utilization of existing state contract number 44000-23732 with Coca-Cola Bottling Company United Incorporated to purchase bottled water and sports drinks for the city on an as-needed basis not to exceed $10,000 annually for the Department of Emergency Management. Item 16D is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Ram J Construction LLC for the rental of emergency equipment post-disaster on an as-needed basis in accordance with seal bid number 22-6708 in an amount not to exceed $175,875 for the Department of Field Services. Item 16E is an ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from Securitas Technology Corporation to furnish and program new access equipment to upgrade existing system for the Punch Train Center in accordance with letter bid 23-2038 in the amount of $12,371.40 for the Department of General Services. Item 16F is an ordinance authorizing the utilization of state contract number 44000-26321 with ARCO Company Services Incorporated to furnish generators, towable, and stationary on an as-needed basis in an amount not to exceed $300,000 annually for the Department of Public Works. Item 16G is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Tags and Signs Unlimited to supply corrugated plastic panels, sign blanks, and hardware in accordance with letter bid 23-2042 in an amount not to exceed $20,000 for the Department of General Services. Item 16H is an ordinance repealing ordinance number 11,698 and approving amendment number 1 to the agreement between the City of Kenner and Ramelli Janitorial Service Incorporated for garbage collection and recycling services. Item 16I is an ordinance amending Chapter 15, Traffic and Motor Vehicles, Article 2, Section 15-21 of the Kenner Code of Ordinances to add stop signs at the intersection of Wood Lake Boulevard, Joe Yenny Boulevard, and Salentini Parkway. Item 17 is reports from the council and our special committees.
Just want to wish everyone a happy Mardi Gras. Be safe out there in the streets and take Ubers to New Orleans.
Item 18 is new business. We have none. Item 19 is unfinished business and motions to reconsider or remove from a tabled position. We have none. Item 20 is persons wishing to address the council on special subject matters.
Mr. Al Morella.
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 51 years. Getting back to the discussion we had in here a little earlier concerning the solid waste collection. As you all already know, if you watch the news, IB Waste is the focus of yet another investigative report by Lee Zurich. This time, a contract in New Orleans that's being scrutinized as possible political payback for, I don't know what you want to call running the city of New Orleans, but a contract that was given for $366,000 he spent on negative ads concerning this individual's opponent years ago. Also, it was reported on that report that he is taking labor away from one of the contractors that's still under contract with the city of New Orleans to possibly put them out of business. So this has been, let me just say this, the solid waste collection business is a very lucrative business. It's a multi-million-dollar a year business that has no oversight at all, simply because it doesn't fall under the open bid laws of the state of Louisiana. Now, you all say you want transparency, then I would like to see you all put a resolution on the table and send it on up to that open sewer in Baton Rouge and try to get them to put all contracts under the open bid laws in this state, not to exempt anybody. Because I'm going to tell y'all something. whether it's a no-bid contract or whether it's a bid contract. Myself, and I'm sure all the citizens in the city, this is what we expect and demand. We expect reasonable and customary cost to the taxpayers. We expect responsibility and reliability from these contractors. First and foremost, campaign contributions, throw it out the window. We're not looking at that, like the mayor said. We have no preference who picks up our garbage, but we have a preference as to what the costs are and how reliable they are. Anybody got any comments, any questions? Thank you. I got some time left, Councilman?
Well, that's not exactly what the mayor said, but I'm not going to go there.
No, the mayor did say as long as, we worry about the cost. But we have no preference as to who picks up the garbage. He did say that. He's quoted in the Advocate. You read the newspaper, Councilman?
Yes, I do. I'm messing
I'll
with
bring you the article. How about we do that?
I was talking about the wording.
Okay.
I was there.
I'll read it front back every day. Anybody? Comments, questions? Second time? Thank you.
Mr. Teft?
Greg Tapp, 3720 West Loyola Drive. I just want to bring up the situation with looking at O'Malley, which is going to be on the next agenda for recycling. And I just want to bring the attention, this to the attention of the council. And I can't say the administration, because most of the administration wasn't here when all this was going on. But I recall, I know in District 5, 40% of the people in District 5 constantly complained about the service they were getting from Romelli prior to IV coming in. Now, we forget that we had a problem, but we want to go back to it, when in reality, we had trash cans that were falling apart, they were taped together, because Romelli wouldn't pick them up. And this is what y'all are proposing and what y'all are scared of to try to put back into place. Now, I just want to say this. There is 2 dump sites that I believe that IV Waste has brought up to the mayor to try to get paid for. Of course, one of them is the dump site itself, and the other one is the Kenner Yard. It is it's my understanding that the discrepancies that's coming between the mayor and IV has to do with that Kenner Yard debris. Because some of that debris was going on during Ida or after Ida. There was an agreement made from the mayor, and there was some communication with Deborah Fauché, who asked them to do additional work with the big truck to pick up some of that debris. And I even remember that a lot of constituents in this city was complaining because debris was sitting too long in their yard, so somebody had to come and help pick it up. And they were calling on IV on a daily basis to pick up that debris. Well, all I'm going to ask, and on this subject, is that before we jump to what's coming up, that we in good faith sit down face to face, and I'm asking the mayor to do this, face to face between the mayor and Mr. Torres, forget the attorneys, forget all that, and sit down and go line by line through those billings. And if they're wrong, they should come out of that meeting with an understanding of what's wrong and what's right, or they'll come out with an understanding you don't want to negotiate in good faith. It's just going to be one or the other. That's all I am asking before we jump, because I think there's 2 sides to every story, and I think all sides wants to do what's right, but right now we're not going down the path. We're jumping from here, and we're going to make a move.
Mr. Taft, your 3 minutes is up.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Mayor Glazer.
All right, Mr. Teft. I took office July 1st of last year. July 27th, Sidney Torres was in my office That's how long we've been trying to come to an agreement and let him know how much he's been overbilling us. Has nothing to do with hurricane pickup at all, like I've said. We're not terminating any contract. He's still going to pick up curbside garbage. There's just a question with the overbilling of the supplemental services. That's it.
Ms. Stacy Alessandro.
Hi again. So I'd like to clear up the thing with Al Morella. What the mayor actually said was, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But anyway, I would like to say that, you know, I understand that you guys want to move forward and y'all want to make the Romelli situation come to an end. I understand that and I agree with that. I do not agree with the way that y'all went about it. I appreciate the way Tom fiercely stood up for the people today. I'm disappointed in the rest of you guys. Y'all, I consider some of y'all friends. I still do. I'm disappointed because I feel like we could have came to the same conclusion and done it the proper way. And in this way, the citizens were just discarded. Y'all got to sit up there and read that document. I didn't. They didn't. Nobody else got to see it. I mean, why even have the citizens come to these meetings if we're just going to be disregarded? Either we're included or we're not. So what's done is done, but I would ask you guys, I see some new faces. I don't know, I know you're an attorney, but I'm sorry, I don't know, Ms. Michelle. You know, I see some new faces here, and I would just hope that going forward that we would fix this process. If it wasn't done correctly or whatever, now y'all are aware. It's a shame that it wasn't fixed prior to this largest contract being discussed, but y'all need to fix it, and I want to put y'all on notice that Kenner has changed. We have a new change in regime, and we're not doing things the way that we used to do for the new people here. We're not doing it the way that Ben Zahn and his team did it. We're doing the Glazer way, and that's open and transparent. So moving forward, you know, and I'm hoping that he will agree. Moving forward, anything that you guys do from now on, please know that the citizens do pay attention in Kenner, and we want to be involved. So please keep that in mind. So thank you. And my last comment is I just want to remind everybody that we have the ISIS parade in Kenner tomorrow, Saturday. And it's awesome. I'm so glad y'all brought that back. Thank you for that. So y'all have a great day.
Ms. Stacy? Pretty new to this, so I was not say it will be done differently in the future. Okay? Now to see the process as goes on, things like that, I can ask more questions and make sure it's done in a different manner. And I think everybody here realizes that now, that this probably wasn't done the best way, okay? But there is a better way, okay?
Councilmember Wilmot.
I appreciate your comments, Ms. Alessandro, and I would like to say that sometime in the near future, I do intend on working on legislation to see if we can make a change with this, because it's not right. It really isn't, and I think we need to correct it. And if it's a procedural glitch, then we need to fix that glitch, because we need to do things like Ms. Alessandro said, so the public can have its notice, and they're entitled to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Wilmot. Yvonne Cage. Please state your name, your address. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Yvonne Cage. I live at 1425 31st Street in the Lincoln Manor subdivision. And I basically have like a code enforcement issue that I have been going on, and I want to bring it, you know, to the council and to the mayor and everyone else. This past week, I had summons put on my door, well, warning put on my door about a van that I have parked in a private address that I have permission to park it there. And I've been here several times, like to the code enforcement office. I've been going over there and everybody tells me that everything is fine. Thanks to the lady that says she's the leader of the Lincoln Manor subdivision, she keeps making these complaints. So my code enforcement officer, he keeps coming over to my house and I had to go down to the code enforcement office to bring them the paperwork from my vehicle to show that it's in ordinance, it's in compliance, it only weighs 7,000 pounds, so it's not nothing, nothing's wrong with it. I pay insurance on it, it has, everything is fine with it. But she keeps complaining to everyone, and everybody has to come out here and check. And over the week, Friday, I witnessed her on my camera. She's chasing the code enforcement guy. And this guy's like, he can't do his job. I want to know, does she work for the city of Kenner? This is going to turn out to be it's not going to be an ugly finish, because it's a lot of citizens that live back there that she's harassing. I'm going to get a lawyer. And, I want everybody to know what's going on back there, what she's doing. I have her on my camera. She's flagging the guy down. The whole time he was at my house, she circled my block. So I had to get a character with her, and that's not my character. I had to go out there and physically, basically cuss her out. And I want everybody to know that that's what happened, because she got out her car, went to the corner, and then started walking down the block. You can walk wherever you want to, but you can't harass citizens that are paying citizens of this city and that are trying to get their stuff together. If I get a summons on my door, that's Yvonne Cage's summons. That's not her summons, that's not Lincoln Manor subdivision summons, it's mine. So let me deal with the code enforcement guy, which I had already went to the code enforcement office before the man even came back to my door to even get it taken care of. And I think that's harassing. And I got a lawyer, I talked to him, and I'm gonna take it to that point. If I gotta get the news people to come out there, and there's several, when I say several people back there in Lincoln Manor subdivision that are sick of her, they are willing to talk. And it's gonna get to that point, because I'm not the only person that has threatened her, that has gone with her. She's been in people's personal properties, taking up pictures, going behind their gates. You cannot do that. And it's becoming to be redundant. And
Ms.
I don't want
Cage.
nothing negative to happen.
Ms. Cage, your 3 minutes is up.
That's fine. I just want everybody to know what's going on.
Okay.
Ms. Yvonne, your situation's not unique. I got a person around the corner from me. She's probably a little bit of dementia and everything else. 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, she's up and screaming, hollering, and telling people to get out the tree. There's nobody there, but she makes a big commotion, and my neighbors and all complain and things like that. I know it's not exactly like yours, but there are other people out there that are people that, I can't say.
I understand. I just feel like she uses it to officials, and she got, my particular worker that works in my area, she's harassing that man.
Ms.
That
Cage,
man's trying
Ms.
to do his
Cage.
job.
Yes.
Ms. Cage, your 3 minutes is up.
That's fine.
David,
Okay.
Dave, Mary, but just to let you know, I feel for you.
Okay, thank you.
Council President,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, we've had several complaints about this also, and there will be other residents that probably will complain about this issue, because I feel like once something has been addressed through the court or through code, I feel like it's you're fooling with the code and resources and things of that nature that really should not be. Now, according to Ms. Cade, her bus is 7,500 pounds. In the area, they can go up to 10,000. If this has been addressed, then I don't think there should be a constant harassment of the residents of the area, because there are many issues that have already been addressed and settled, and then they go back and they go to code, and it is creating a problem in my community. And there are other residents that also will be addressing because of this issue. And I would like to have Ms. Topple to just clarify that she is legal in my area.
Thank you. Yes, commercial vehicles, you can have a commercial vehicle on your property if it's less than 10,000 pounds. Ms. Cage had brought in her registration for her vehicle. It's like one of your smaller bus-type vans, and it is under 10,000 pounds, and that is allowed to be parked in a residential zoning. but just by looking at something, sometimes you don't know that it's under 10,000 pounds. There is a note under her address now in our system, so we will not be going out for that purpose again.
Thank you, Ms. Dobbin. Councilmember Shaw.
I'd like to remind everyone, tonight is the opening night for the New Orleans Gold rugby team, and there's going to be a big festival, big parade over there at no longer the Shriner Airline, but it's now the Gold Mine on Airline. Inviting everybody to come out. The game starts at 6 o'clock, or the festivities start at 6 o'clock, and come on out and join us tonight.
Okay, have a motion by Brannigan, second by McKinney to adjourn.